There's 20,000 horses snorting and pawing in the prairie sun. The ASA Cowboys are mounted up and ready for this all-star rodeo. A chance to crack the curse of the runner-up that even the master hasn't broken. At a place where you have to run in the red zone. With these guys, it's go fast or go home, hombre. And in Tornado Alley, the winds of fate strike swift and sudden. And in the blink of an eye, can wreck your whole day. But if you ride fast, shoot straight, and keep your hat on tight, it's drinks on the house, boys. Topeka, Kansas plays host to the 11th stop on the 1994 ASA AC-Delco Challenge Series Tour. Under clear blue skies, it's windy and it's hot here in America's heartland, but if the fans can find some shade, a nice cool breeze will keep them cool down. Hello again, everybody. Glad you could join us. I know you will be, because we've got a real Cecil B. DeMille epic shaping up for you here, including a cast of thousands and a special surprise that we're going to tell you about in just a few minutes. Right now, though, working with me as always, my good friend and partner, Rob Albright. Rob, I don't know about you, but I look forward to this more every week, and we've got another great one shaping up. It's an all-star race here today.
It sure is, and I'm ready. 4 races, really. The battle for the points lead, Butch Miller, Mike Eddy. The rookie battle shaping up. Some road racing veterans, not just ringers here this weekend, but hoping to be impressive and run for Rookie of the Year in '95, and the battle on the racetrack, which will include some NASCAR visitors. It's going to be a gem.
Now, the points battle, of course, Butch Miller, after winning the very first race of the season, has been in the lead all season long. But in spite of his 3 victories and 8 top 10 finishes, he's not running away with this one.
He absolutely isn't. And the guy breathing down his neck is 7-time champion Mike Eddy. He's there waiting for Butch to falter. Butch doesn't plan to falter. Mike will have to pressure him all the way. And 3rd through 10th separated by just a handful of points. So we're going to see a lot of jumbling before the season is over.
We're almost set for the green flag. We promised you a cast of thousands. Well, we got a couple of guys down on pit road because it's another big one. So Chad Myers is joining Ralph Shaheen down there to cover all the action where it counts. Let's go to Ralph first.
The front of the grid on an ASA road race is usually a pretty unique field. For example, here today at Topeka, 2 ASA veterans will be at row 3, Harold Fair and, of course, Darrell Waltrip. Row 2 is where you find the hardcore road racers, Scott Lagasse, and over here on the inside, Leighton Reese. The pole position car is Butch Miller. He set the track record at over here on the outside of row number 1 is Jay Sauter. Now, Jay is in the car that actually won this race last year, and a lot of people would say this is your best chance ever to win a race, but motor problems this morning. Anything to be concerned about?
No, I don't think so. You know, Danny Stillman and his crew, they've done an excellent job. We found a little trouble. They replaced the engine. We're going to be in good shape. We're set to win today.
Jay Sauter will look for his first win of 1994 from the outside of road number 1. Now let's go to my partner in the pits today, Chad Myers.
Ralph, from where I stand, it looks like you're in Oklahoma because I'm in the 16th row, but I'm not by myself. Sitting right next to me is Gary St. Amant. Gary, you have a lot of cars to pass. You're not used to starting this far back. What are you going to do?
Well, Chad, you know, it's a long race. We're going to take it easy, and, you know, the Winds Ford Thunderbird, you know, we got a fast race car here, a 1.8-mile road course. Hopefully we'll be up front at the end of the day.
Gary's not the only one starting back here. We also have Mark Martin sitting over here in the number 60 car. Behind him, Bob Seneker. Now back up to the booth.
We promised you a surprise, and here he is, Scott Hansen, who won this race here at Heartland Park, Topeka, a year ago. The good news is he's with us. The bad news, Scott, you're not going to be driving out there, but we're certainly happy to have benefit of your kind of knowledge. Tell me how it went for you last year and how you think that's going to bear on these guys this time out.
Well, I'll tell you, I had a great car here last year. Howard Leto was my crew chief, and, you know, it couldn't have went any better. You know, we got the race lead about halfway through. We won the race, and I was out here Friday, and I was watching that same car run out here, and They changed engines this morning. It's the same car, identical to what I won here last year, and I look for Jay to have a real good race.
What are the rest of the guys going to have to do, though, to deal with him and with the conditions here at Heartland Park?
Well, I'll tell you, this racetrack is real hard on equipment. The transmissions, rear ends, everything takes a pretty good beating here. They need to save the equipment a little bit. All in all, it's just going to be a great race.
Well, we're certainly happy to have Scott up here. I'm going to be real close to a guy that knows what's going on. Right now, let's go back down to Ralph Shaheen, who's going to get us started.
You know, Brian, we get an opportunity to visit quite a few states in the great United States, but the folks here in Kansas have been so hospitable to us. It's just been wonderful. And last night, Governor Joan Finney invited all of us from the ASA over to her house, and we had just a wonderful time over there. Enjoyed dinner. It was really tremendous. What a beautiful place. Please get us underway here today, Governor.
All right. Well, welcome to the Mello Yello 300 at Heartland Park track in Topeka, Kansas. We in Kansas are proud of our sponsors. We're proud of you, the fans. And we love our drivers. And now, gentlemen, start your engines. Great.
Fired up. All that remains is for the green flag to drop, and this field of ASA stars and some all-star visitors will be underway. The 1994 AC-Delco Challenge Series on TNN presents the Mello Yello 300. Brought to you in part by Win Oil Company, makers of quality automotive car care products. Remember, when it's wins, it works. By Mr. Goodwrench, the GM expert at participating GM dealerships. And by Las Vegas, home of the Las Vegas 300, the ASA Championship race. The crowd getting ready for the start here, the Mello Yello 300. The drivers trying to warm their tires up a little bit. Brian Drever, Rob Albright, and Scott Hansen up here in the booth. Chad Myers and Ralph Shaheen down there in the pits. And we have got 41 race car drivers getting ready to go here for the green flag. These guys are getting set for their racing action. We're going to take a look at the front of the grid here, all the way down to the back.
Who says the ASA boys can't road race? Certainly not the front row of Butch Miller in the Quality Care Port City Liberty Ford Thunderbird, and making his second start in the Wisconsin Aviation Chevrolet, Jay Sauter.
The road race guys are on row number 2, the king of the road, Leighton Reese, a perfect 4 for 4 as a runner-up in ASA road courses. Alongside him, Scott Lagacy. He won the qualifier in the Hank Parker-owned Delco Voyager Chevrolet.
The governor says it's officially Darrell Waltrip Day in Kansas. In the Western Auto AC-Delco Chevrolet, he starts 5th. And with his best road racing qualifying effort to date, Harold Fair in the Build-A-Bowl Triple-S 2000 Pontiac.
Inside the 4th row, Steve Holtzhausen won his first ASA race to start the month of July in the Baker Enterprises entry. And alongside him, Mike Miller, 8 finishes in the top 10, but still looking for a sponsor for his Pontiac Grand Prix.
It's future ASA superstars in row 5. Brad Loney in the Winnebago H&W Flex Steel Chevrolet. And on the outside of that 5th row, the leading rookie, Dave Sensiva in the Lane Automotive Gate Motor Mall Chevy.
Back there in the 6th row, 7-time champion, 4-time winner this season, Mike Eddy. He's on row 6. There's Tony Raines, welcoming him back on row number 7, along with Ken Stauffer. As we look deeper back in the field, Rob Albright and Scott Hansen, a lot of talent in the back is going to be charging towards the front.
And Brett Bell had such a great run at Brainerd, went out with an engine problem after running in the top 2 for much of the day. There's that rookie Brian Breffner, Darren Law, a driving school instructor, here to challenge some of his students, and he is actually starting well behind some of them.
Scott Hansen way back in the pack. We've got some real talent, a whole pack of guys in the back that are going to have to fight their way through traffic to get up front, but there's no lack of talent among those guys.
We got Mark Martin's back there, Gary Singman, Bob Seneca, Joe Knapp. Joe had his best run here, I believe, of his career was 4th. He's going to do real well here, too.
A great field of drivers here, a large field, as you might expect. Plenty of room for them on this 1.8-mile road course at Heartland Park, Topeka. We've got a huge crowd on hand. Of course, they enjoy NHRA drag racing here and all kinds of racing at this spectacular facility.
And if you're wondering why drivers like Martin Martin and Gary St. Amant, Bob Seneker, Ken Schrader so deep in the field. Martin was at the IROC race yesterday, so he'll start well back. Ken Schrader, who ran well in his qualifying race, unfortunately missed the starting grid, so he was relegated to the rear of the field. Bob Seneker crashed in practice. Gary St. Amant spun, and the car stalled while running fourth in his qualifying race.
We're going to take a little bit closer look all the way around this racetrack. We're going to take you on board with the number 0 car of Tom Jones in the Velcro Pace Jacks Pontiac.
We're passing the start-finish line. Accelerating hard, backing off, shift into downshifting into turn 1. Back on the gas. Now shifting into turn 2. Back on the gas. On the back shift. Turn 3. Back in the first gear. Turning a hard left and a right. Down with a short shift. Side of the course. We're downshifting into a left-hand turn and then a right turn. Now we're coming into a hard turn here. Down the hill into the bridge. Now a right turn here. Left up. We go into a 180 here.
Like to ride shotgun with Tom Jones in the number 0 car. We also have onboard camera out there with number 78, Bangor, Wisconsin, Steve Holzhaus in the Baker Enterprises Pontiac. There's Tom Jones. Look from his spot. He started qualified 25th, so he's back in the back of the field. And there's a view that you would get if your dog was hanging his head out the window on the right side of the race car there. He's looking over one of the other cars. Here it is out the back window. Rear view mirror. Here's the rest of the field. Behind the wheel, the number 0 car, Tom Jones, in the Velcro Pontiac. And we also have an onboard camera of the number 78 car, Steve Holzhausen. Now, Steve started a little bit further up in the field there. In fact, he was the 7th qualifier in this field, so we're looking at very few cars in front of him, and a lot more will be behind him, Bob.
There's the Steve Holzhausen car, number 78. Of course, starting in 7th position, he has improved rather dramatically as a road racer, as has Mike Miller. It's got one thing that we did notice in qualifying times yesterday, that each time we go to a road circuit, the times of the top 20 drivers gets narrower and narrower and narrower in terms of the gap between them.
It sure does. You know, every time these guys come back to a road course, it gets tougher and tougher. And, you know, these guys, they just learn so much more about the setups and the driving, how much they can trust their equipment. You know, Steve is a great example last year. You know, we saw him on the grass a lot more than we saw him on the racetrack. He really ran a great race this week.
We'll be looking for a lot of good performances out here. Interestingly enough, the largest margin of victory in ASA came on one of the oval tracks, and the margin of victory at Brainerd was less than 2 seconds. I'm not sure how it's going to turn out here today. You may have noticed when we were upstairs at the start of the show that, well, I had hairdo by hand grenade anyway. It's windy out here today, and I think Ralph Shaheen's got a little bit more on the wind conditions here at Heartland Park. Ralph?
Brian, you can see the flags over me are blowing real good. They're blowing right back up the drag strip here, and it comes in real solid gusts. In fact, I was talking with Butch Miller, and he says it feels to him, and he's a pilot, that maybe it's somewhere in the range of 20, 21, 22 knots, which would be about 25 miles an hour. Now, that would really cause a problem with the gearing of the cars if you've guessed wrong, because you're going to have to fight that headwind as you're headed back up the front straightaway. Last year, and Scott Hansen can comment on this, the wind blew the other way. They had a real good tailwind, and late in reset, he had the wrong gear, and it might have cost him a good chance at the win.
I'll tell you, the wind makes a big difference down there at the end of turn 1. Exit the end of the straightaway going into 1. Last year, it came across the race, across the field there. You actually feel it blowing the car from side to side.
Well, we're almost ready to go green flag racing here. They decided they needed to move one of the ambulances and trying to get it across the track. We promise we'll be racing when you come back. Welcome back to the Mello Yello 300 here at Heartland Park in Topeka, Kansas. A lot of the folks there in the grandstand have taken a hike around the racetrack. They're up on the hilltops. They're all over the place. There's berms, great viewing positions. There's one center grandstand that was already filled up very early this morning because from the top of that grandstand you can see the whole racetrack. We're getting ready to go green. Roger Slack, the flagman for the American Speed Association, has an honorary starter up there with him apparently, and we are racing here. The Mello Yello 300 is underway.
One thing they can't do is go into the corner 4 wide like they're attempting here.
Well, there we saw one car get a little bit loose. Looked like the 95 car there, Chuck Hemmingson, got a little sideways going in there. As you said, they can't go 4 wide into turn 1. Now they're in the back chute part of the racetrack. There are 10 turns here at Heartland Park. 7 of them left-hand turns. Everybody will have no problem dealing with lefts. 3 right-hand turns. And they say that some of these guys have a problem turning right. We certainly haven't seen it yet this season. Guys like Butch Miller, they have no trouble at all adjusting the road course.
As you can see already, Butch Miller adopting a line that is a very conservative line. He was well off of the rumble strips there. We saw him doing that all day yesterday in his 17-lap qualifying race. Ran just hard enough to win that race, and one of the rookies in trouble already. That's Brian Refner. It looks like he's going to move back on course, but he'll drop to the tail of the field.
A little bit of agricultural modification there to the Heartland Park facility. Butch Miller still running up front with Jay Sauter and Leighton Reese following right behind him. A trio of white cars at the head of the field here. And then the 4th car in line there, of course, everybody lining up in pretty much single file line now as they head down the straightaway as they have completed 1 lap in this race.
Mark Martin and Ken Schrader, we notice, have already begun to work their way through traffic, particularly Schrader. He passed about 8 or 9 cars on the very first lap, but they've got a long way to go and a rough road to hoe to catch Butch Miller. Now, we can see that Brian Refner has brought that car number 5, that structural transport Ford Thunderbird, on pit road, and when you're 1 point out of the rookie lead, that's not something you want to see on the very first lap of a race.
That's something we're going to be watching very closely throughout the day here. Of course, that rookie battle separated by a point. We're talking about Dave Sensiba in the white number 4 car, and now Brian Refner in the black 5 is on pit road. Butch Miller continues to lead, trying to stretch it out just a little bit here over the rest of the race field. Here's a look from up above, high over the Heartland Park race course as Butch Miller winds his way through the backstretch.
Scott, in one of our qualifying races yesterday, a very high rate of attrition for just a 50-mile event, and the other one, virtually none. Is this the kind of race and the kind of racetrack that you really do have to pace yourself and is going to play into the hands of a style like Butch Miller is known for?
You know, Butch is a real smart racer. He knows how to save his equipment. He wants to lead a bunch. You know, he told me that he really wanted the pole position here at this racetrack, and he hadn't gotten one all year long. And he went out and he captured his car's running really well. He's gonna conserve his car. Jay's car, like I said before, was running real well. You know, they put a different engine in it. You know, that's gonna be a key factor for Jay here this afternoon as well.
Brian Refner's car is up on the jack down on pit road. Ralph Shaheen's with him.
Well, we're down here taking a look at the car to see how it is. It looks like they broke the A-frame. We'll get a word with Brian. Brian, what happened?
Everybody was trying to get a lane going into that turn 3, and I just got slammed out of the way. It was kind of a bad deal that early in the race, but somebody wanted my part of the real estate. I was just on the outside, no place to go.
Well, they'll have to fix that A-frame and get Brian back in so we can try and rack up as many rookie points as he can.
Refner in the number 5 structural transport Ford Thunderbird, the first man on pit road here today. They are now just 3 laps or 4 laps into this race. Butch Miller continues to lead Jay Sauter in the number 1 car. There's the 26 of Bill Baird also doing a little off-road excursion, and he gets back into it.
To give you an update from deep in the pack, the number 52K machine, standing for Special K, Ken Schrader, since Butch Miller owns the number 52 in ASA, has 13 cars in the first 2 laps of the race. So he's not letting any grass grow. He's wasting no time, but he's still a couple of slots behind his teammate this weekend, but arch rival when they race elsewhere, Mark Martin.
Whoa, another 3rd car in line there, Leighton Reese, the king of the road, having some trouble trying to keep his car on the road. Meanwhile, Butch Miller running flawlessly out front along with Jay Sauter. The rest of the field starting to stretch out just a little bit, a lead pack of 5 cars.
And so much for my comments about Butch Miller not using up much racetrack. You can see him picking up dust in the back section of the race course.
A couple cars went off the track there a little bit earlier. He may have just been running through what was left over on the racetrack there. Butch is running a real good line. A lot of credit's got to be given to Bob Seneca and his crew. He crashed real hard here yesterday, and I don't even know where they went to fix the car, but they had to cut the whole tail section off. They may have even had replaced the engine. It was you know, it hit so hard that it shoved the motor forward and busted the steering out of the car. So they did a lot of work, and he looks like he's running pretty well.
Darrell Waltrip running there behind Scott Lagasse. Lagasse, the winner of the first qualifying race. And DW Day here in Kansas, as proclaimed by the governor of the state of Kansas. And Darrell Waltrip running in 5th spot there behind the trio of white cars.
You can see Butch already beginning to stretch his advantage slightly. There's the Darrell Waltrip Western Auto machine. Darrell hoping to have a good run here this afternoon. He has 6 ASA victories to his credit. I think the last one came, if I'm not mistaken, at Nashville a couple of years ago in the inaugural televised ASA race. There were 5 folks televising that one, and he beat Bob Seneker to the checkered flag by less than half a car length.
Talked to Darrell a little bit last night, and as in a lot of other drivers' comments, the cars are really tight here this year. You know, they can't get the front ends to turn going into the corner, and he was hoping they'd make a few changes on that car and to see how it started out this morning. He said that they would wait till the first pit stop to make some adjustments on it.
Driver Scott Lagasse, who's running directly in front of him right now, is driving the car that Darrell Waltrip has driven before. It's a former Darrell Waltrip car. It's now owned by Hank Parker, the fellow who's the fishing expert on the Nashville network. Hank really excited about ASA racing.
That 5-car pack now has opened up a bit of a gap. We've got one car running in 6th spot that's all by itself, trying to bridge across and join the lead group. And then the rest of the herd is slapping leather along behind them there. There goes Lagasse through the turn.
And I think that Leighton Reese may have had a problem. I noticed that time as he came off turn 10, he waved at the 2 drivers behind him, gave them plenty of room. There's Mark Martin. See the big V, the Valvoline Ford Thunderbird, as he picks up another spot. He moves around Jeff Neal's car number 75. He's shown a lot of patience. Now, Mark knows only one style. We know that from his past exploits in ASA as a 4-time champion, and that is flat out. But, Scott, he is being very patient in the early going today.
He sure is. You know, I talked to him a little earlier, and he said starting that far back, you know, he's not used to all the drivers that are back there. He just wants to feel the car out. He had a little bit of carburetor problem, and we're hoping to get that worked out of it. The car really looks like it's running well. Like you said, Mark just drives the wheels out of anything he's in, and you know, if they get the car close, Mark's going to be a definite contender.
And after the day he had yesterday at MIS, he's not doing it for the money, that's for sure, as he took $250,000 away from that place, finished 2nd in the race yesterday to Al Unser Jr., but won the IROC championship in the process.
I wonder if Leighton has a little problem. I saw a little smoke earlier, and as you said, he dropped back a couple of spots. Maybe he's just saving it. You know, he knows, you know, he finished 2nd so many times that he knows he's got to be around at the end of this race to be, be in contention.
As we continue to watch Mark Martin's charge up through the field there, he's right on the wheels of Glenn Allen Jr. in the number 15 car. Those of you used to seeing Glenn Allen in a green 15. This is his road race car, the white 15, and he's got a brand new sponsor on the hood up there. CarQuest has picked up the tab for the Glenn Allen Jr. entry, and that's not a bad thing for them or for him.
Unfortunately, the team has been down on horsepower all weekend long. They had a very good handling race car Friday and yesterday. They're expecting to acquire some new engines perhaps in the next week or so that they think will put them once again back in championship contention. After the first 7 races of the year, he was 2nd in points. Now with 3 races in a row with problems, he's dropped well back. And one of our driving school instructors, Darren Law, in that Tony's Pizza 1 Group Chevrolet, he's off the pace. He was impressive yesterday in his qualifying event.
Darren Law in the 02 car is in fact down on pit road. Brian Reffner's car is still up on the jacks down on pit road. So now we have a pair who are out of the race at least temporarily. And as the crew for the 02 car goes to work, there is the leader, Butch Miller, in the Quality Care Ford Thunderbird, running up front. Behind him is the rest of the field. There's Lagasse, and there is Leighton Reese, who has dropped from 2nd spot all the way back to 5th place and is losing ground. Let's go down to the pit now as Ralph Shaheen's got another report for us on pit road.
We're with Mike Chappie, crew chief for Mark Martin. Now, Mike, it looks the guys upstairs are saying that Mark's pacing himself a little bit. Is he or isn't he?
Well, if he is, he hasn't told me. He pretty much told us at the beginning of the race he's heading for the front, and he doesn't really like to make plans. He just wants to go fast.
Is he saying anything about the car, how it's handling?
No, he really hasn't said a word. We're in real good shape. We got Ted Musgrave up on top of the grandstand spotting for us, so hopefully the Valvoline Thunderbird will be in the front pretty quick.
And Mike Chappie, you might remember, gentlemen, was the crew chief for Jay Sauter earlier this year.
Also down on pit road, Chad Myers with a report for us for the first time in the broadcast. Chad?
They're pushing the Darren Law car back behind the wall now. It just wasn't running very well. He couldn't keep it running, almost like it was getting flooded. Every time he tried to put his foot in the throttle, it would flood and try to stall. Then it would clear itself, but it would never run real well. They do believe it's an ignition problem. They're pushing it behind the wall to work on it.
But Scott Hansen, that is a good race car. You know it well.
Sure is. You know, we sold Randy Larson that car. As we're talking, Bob Seneca's come into the pits here. He's got a flat tire. He come in very rapidly. But that was a good car. Randy bought it from us. He wanted to make the attempt to go ASA racing, and he's finding out that it's being a lot more fun and less expensive to be an owner, I believe, in his condition. He had just some bad luck when he was out there driving.
Also down on pit road there, we mentioned it just a moment ago, Scott Hansen. There's Bob Seneca, the Bluebird, the number 84. He's up, obviously going to change tires and gas it up, take this opportunity to do that. We're not sure what brought him in there in the first place, but he's getting ready to go back out again.
Butch Miller has been in the points lead from the opening race of the season. He won the first televised race on the Nashville Network here from Denver, Colorado. And he said after Brainerd winning his first road race ever, Butch Miller, road racer, I love the way that sounds, and he's proving it here this afternoon. Bob Seneca comes back on the racetrack, barely in front of leader Butch Miller, and in serious jeopardy of going a lap down.
I wonder if the shifter didn't hang up on the car. I don't believe they changed tires, or it didn't look like they did. There's a possibility that the shifter jammed up over there in the backstretch trail first.
And the battle for third place there as we see the number 17 car continuing to work hard. Darrell Waltrip, there's Butch Miller just ahead of Jay Sauter, and here's the battle for third there between Scott Lagasse and DW, as Leighton Reese has in fact fallen seriously off the pace there. He was second at one time. We just saw him pop into the picture running fifth right now.
And if you're an ASA regular race fan and you're not familiar with the name Scott Lagasse, he is a very highly regarded road racer. He's run a lot of Trans Am and SCCA races. In fact, subbed for Bobby Dotter in a Busch Grand National road race earlier this year at Watkins Glen. When he got into the car, he was running dead last, and I believe he finished second in that race. And then in an ARCA event here in Kansas not too long ago, he won that one. So Scott Lagasse is tough, but of all these places that he's run, I think it's pretty exciting that he says this is the place that he'd like to see his future in stock car racing.
Let's go down to Ralph Shaheen once again, who's with the crew chief for the number 84 car. Ralph?
That would be Dan Crawford. Dan, what's wrong with Bob?
Well, we crashed real bad in practice yesterday. We stayed up all night repairing it. Evidently, we couldn't repair everything. We're having troubles with the transmission. The drive shaft was smashed into it pretty hard, and we did the best we could.
What gear is he stuck in?
He was stuck in fourth. We popped it out. He's going to have to be careful shifting from this point on.
How will he do that? You say he has to be careful. What will he have to do?
Just not jam it. Just ease it.
That's got to be tricky, Scott Hansen.
It sure is. You know, beginning of this race last year, I had the shifter fall off in the car, and thanks to Mark Martin's help with everything we did last year, setup-wise and everything, you know, he convinced us to get in early, get it fixed, and you know, it was just fortunate that we had little road racing experience we had, that Mark was there to help us through that. We fixed it, and like I said, we come back out to win the race. So,
Chad Myers, real quick, we're going to go down to him for an update on the 02 car of Darren Law. Chad?
Well, I'm standing right next to him now. Darren, what happened to the car?
Well, it's really hard to say, and it's real disappointing for the one group in Bondrot. I couldn't tell on the warm-up last because we were at such a low speed, but once I got into the throttle, the motor started cutting out. I think it's something electrical. It's hard to say.
How was the track out there? You're the first one behind the wall.
The track's fine. It felt real good. You know, there's some dirt on the track from a couple guys going off, but, you know, I really didn't get a chance to get up to speed. It cut out on the first lap on me.
Darren Law with bigger hopes than this.
Butch Miller trying to run away with this one already, working his way up to the tail end of the field now as Butch Miller heads down into the backstretch part. And he is being followed by Jay Sauter, then by the 03 car of Scott Lagasse. And as the field continues to circle, let's go down to Ralph Shaheen once again, who's with TJ Law.
Well, you know, for poor TJ Clark, you came out here to make your ASA debut, and you don't even get to turn a lap. What happened?
Well, we had some problems yesterday in practice. Had a little motor problem. Took a little dive on us coming off onto the straightaway, and the guys just didn't have enough time to put it back together. But we're going to go out here and hang out, watch the racing, and cheer on some guys. I just, again, like to thank ASE for giving us the opportunity, and anybody out there that supports ASE, we appreciate that as well.
When you come to a series like this and you're trying to get started and you don't even get to turn a lap, how hard is it to get them to invite you back to another one?
Well, we hope that that works out for us. Obviously, it's not a good turnout for us, but we'll be back. I think we'll put some things together, and we'll make sure next time we come back that it works out real good for us and everybody as well. So it'll definitely be tough, but
Unfortunately for TJ, now him and his wife Debbie have to go watch the race from the grandstands.
Well, TJ Clark watching the race here, and we have some debris out on the racetrack, and a full course yellow is going to slow things down for a little bit and bunch the field up. So we'll be right back here for the Mello Yello 300 as racing continues at Heartland Park in Topeka. Welcome back to the Mello Yello 300. As you look at Steve Holtzhausen just cruising around right now under a full course yellow, we have identified some of the debris on the racetrack. There was a muffler laying in the middle of the home stretch and what looks like a dry sump belt back there in one of the turns. And the big news right now, as you see the field circulating slowly behind the pace car, is Butch Miller is going into the pit here under caution.
That was his muffler that may have fallen off his car.
Well, they're cleaning off the front end of the race car right there. That looks like just a little routine maintenance. Looking around the tires, and Chad Myers is right with them. Chad?
Well, we're going to go ask Gary Showalter. That was a very short pit. Didn't change any tires. Gary, what was that pit for?
We're just going to try to stay full of gas because we don't know how many more yellows we're going to get. So we don't want to run out.
But now you're at the bottom of the field.
That's okay. Everybody else has got to stop again. I do not understand that at all because we have a rule in ASA that most people like. We've had a couple of folks that said, I don't like it, but you've got to try something. It's called a competition yellow. And what it says is that if we go more than a certain distance, and I believe that's 20 laps on this size racetrack, 60 miles, that if we go that long under green, there will be an automatic caution flag to allow the drivers to come in and stop under yellow. So that cannot be the logic. If it is, Gary may just be unaware of this competition yellow. Scott, no reason for him to come in for that reason.
No, I don't understand that either. I believe they bumped it up to 30 laps here, being a 1.8. But, yeah, we ran last year. Fuel was a concern. You know, we went with one stop. We made 54 laps, something like that. But since that rule has come into effect, there is no reason for that, for them to come in and get fuel like that.
Well, we'll scratch our heads a little bit over that. For you young racers out there, we know we have a lot of young fans out in this in the heartland of America as we broadcast from Heartland Park. One of them wrote in to us, and the subject was, in fact, gasoline.
Welcome to the Young Racers. This week's question comes from Jesse Eisenhart of Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. Jesse wants to know, how much does a gas can weigh? How fast does the gas get into the car? And what's the purpose of the small can? So we asked John Figler, the gas man on the 52 car, Butch Miller.
Thanks for writing in, Jesse. That's an excellent question. The dump can that we use to fill the car with fuel in ASA holds 11 gallons of fuel. It weighs approximately 7 pounds a gallon. That makes the whole can weigh approximately 77 pounds, which all enters from the quick fill nozzle at the top. The small can that we use is to catch the overflow fuel, and that also tells us that the car is full. Thanks for writing in.
Thanks for those answers, John. If you have a question, send your question and photograph to The Young Racers, P.O. Box 26792, Charlotte, North Carolina, 28221.
Our young race fans out there, we just went green as Butch Miller is now in the back of the field, so inheriting the lead will be the number 1 car of Jay Sauter there, the Wisconsin Aviation Chevrolet, formerly piloted by our broadcast colleague here, Scott Hansen. And now running in second spot is the 03 of Scott Lagasse out of St. Augustine, Florida, Delta Voyager Chevrolet. There's the race leader, Jay Sauter, and what he looks like underneath his helmet and goggles. And then now in third spot, the 17 of Darrell Waltrip. And, well, we saw Leighton Reese, who would be fourth right now. Is he still there? Well, as we peek back through the field, we'll have to take a look. He definitely slid back through the bunch.
He is still fourth. Steve Holtzhausen has come to fifth. Mike Miller is sixth. Brad Loney is seventh. Chuck Hemmingson runs eighth, and rounding out the top 10, Dave Sensiba and Tony Rings, who's having a good early race.
I'll tell you, Mark Martin has moved up a bunch of positions here, as well as Kenny Schrader. Maybe as Mark Sturgeon was saying, he's not going to sit there and wait. He's going to bring the car to the front. Another break, I think, was for Bob Seneca. The caution came out. That brought him from just ahead of the leaders to right behind, right in the main pack.
Apparently, Bobby Archer has parked his number 2 car, and he's with Chad Myers. Chad, what do you got?
Well, they're parked, and they're now pushing it behind the wall, and Bobby Archer is standing here with me. Bobby, what happened to the car?
I think the Justice Brothers car lost the clutch. You know, we went into corner 1, downshifted, and came out, and there was nobody home.
We had a lot of attrition last year. Is that going to be the same problem this year?
Well, I don't know. I wasn't here last year. You know, this was just a silly fluke. You know, the guys worked really hard on the car, but You know, it looked like everybody was doing a good job. You know, there's a lot of cars on a real narrow track, but, you know, it's a short day for us.
I'll let you get back to work on the car. They push you behind the wall.
Here's the rest of the top 20. In 11th position is Mike Eddy. 12th now is Mark Martin. Remember how deep he started, 31st in this field. Brett Bell has moved to 13th. 14th is now Kenny Schrader in the 52K car. 15th is 07 Todd Forbes. Rick Corelli is 16th. 17th is Gary St. Amant, followed by Kent Stopper, Tom Jones, and Tom Harrington.
On board with Steve Holtzhausen in the number 78 car, who is currently running in 5th spot there. He's driving the Baker Enterprises Pontiac and looking ahead at the 4 leaders. Whoa, there's Leighton Reese talking about not letting any grass grow. They're going to have a hard time getting any to grow if these guys keep chopping it down like that. Leighton Reese taking a little brief off-road excursion, but he's back in shape. And there, once again, looking out through the windshield, this is Scott Holtzhausen, Steve Holtzhausen, rather. Why do I keep wanting to call him Scott? Because Scott Hansen is sitting next to us there, and you can see as they wind their way through those S's, these guys are pretty busy behind the wheels of these race cars at Heartland Park.
Scott, how much of an impact? Now, the guy that is the crew chief, and Mark Martin's got a problem in car number 60. He's off the pace. He'll be bringing that car on pit road if he can make it there. And they had some problems with leaks in this thing yesterday, and unfortunately, Scott, you know, when you're trying to prepare 3 race cars, it's hard to get everything checked on all 3 of them.
It sure is. You know, they had a couple of weeks, and they had 3 ASA cars and a couple of short track cars that they needed to get prepared, and it's evident. You know, you work that hard. Them guys really do a good job. You know, they really work hard at it, but you know, like you say, just little things can be missed here and there. It's too bad.
Apparently blown motor. We saw flames kind of popping out from underneath the car there. As Mark Martin trying to drift it in towards the pits. He's not going to get anywhere close to pit road with that race car with no motor to push it. And he's not going to get out and push it around there himself either, I don't think.
Started to ask you, Scott, Steve Holtzhausen's dramatic improvement. How much of it do you think is in part him getting comfortable on the road courses, and how much Howie Leddow? He was your crew chief last year, now with Holtzhausen.
I'm sure both of those factors come into play. Steve, like I said about road course racing, you need to know how much you can trust your equipment. You need to know that you have good brakes and everything. Howard's always had great setups, just about any racetrack he goes to. Mark helped Howard a lot last year with the setups, and I'm sure that all came back. Steve's confidence level just grew and grew and grew, having Howard there, knowing he had a good setup, basically a setup that won the race here last year. You know, Steve he's come a long way.
The number 1 car leading this race, and our number 1 pit road superstar, Ralph Shaheen's got more about the Mark Martin situation. What's the crew chief got to say, Ralph?
Well, Mike Jaffe, what happened to your car?
Well, Mark just radioed in that it blew up.
Just simple as that.
Yep, used a couple of words that he can't say on TV, and she was done. So it's really a shame, because the guys at All-Star Racing worked super hard to build this car, and for a while we were second faster than Butch Miller, so we're really disappointed.
Unfortunately, gentlemen, Mark Martin's frustrations upon returning to the ASA circuit continues.
A little deja vu, Rob Albright. Seems that I recall reading about something pretty similar happening to him before.
Yeah, here's a great battle for position also. Pass for 12th position apparently now as Ken Schrader gets around Mike Eddy, and Mike's dropped a couple of spots. We understand there was a little confrontation, all in fun, between him and Butch Miller the other night as Butch approached Mike, you know, just to chat with him a little bit, and immediately Eddie starts screaming in his face, "I'll bet you're having fun this weekend. I'll bet you're having fun, aren't you? And that's so uncharacteristic of Mike Eddy. He's normally a man of few words, chomps his gum, and says, yep, we're going to win this one. But he doesn't feel that way when he comes to the road courses. He's getting better, but he's not yet, I don't think, in a position to challenge the top 3 or 4.
Well, considering that Ken Schrader in the 52K started dead last in the field and just made a pass for 12th, we would have to say that Special K's heading for the front like Mark Martin was until his engine blew up a few minutes ago.
I'll tell you, you know, Mark's car, they worked so hard on it and everything that Harold Fair looks like he's going to have some problems here with his engine too. He should be coming into pit lane and see what it is.
Well, Harold had a great run yesterday, finished 2nd in his qualifying race. Another driver that certainly knows how to get around an oval, but surprised a lot of folks with his performance on the road course yesterday. Unfortunately, it's been a season of ups and mostly downs for Harold Fair this year, but he'll bring that on pit road and they'll see if they can make a quick fix.
I'm sorry, Scott, I was going to say there's a lot of things that can be wrong with your car when it starts smoking like that, and none of them are good.
No, and this just might be a factor of what we were saying earlier. The racetrack is real hard on equipment. Nutrition factor looks like it's really going to come into play here today.
Things are starting to heat up front here as some of the riders, some of the top drivers are beginning to get into the lappers at the back of the field right now. Some other guys that have had some trouble. There's the 43 car of Omar Weber out of Colby, Kansas, and the Weber Motorsports Pontiac has become a victim of the race at the front between Jay Sauter and the 03 car of Scott Lagasse.
I'm wondering if they made that change in Darrell Waltrip's car that he was talking about a little earlier, because his car really looks like it's running good.
It looks as though Leighton Reese has corrected whatever was wrong with his car as well. Now he went from second back to fifth, and he's up in third. Of course, one of those spots came because of the benefit of Butch Miller stopping in the pits. We're going to go to a commercial break here and give you an opportunity to look at some important messages while we keep track of the racing action here at the Mello Yello 300. Join us. Welcome back, everybody. The fun has just begun here at Heartland Park, Topeka, Kansas, in the Mello Yello 300. You're looking down on the race for the lead as Jay Sauter tries to hold off Scott Lagasse and the number 17 car there, Darrell Waltrip, here on DW Day in Kansas, officially proclaimed by the governor of the state. And Scott Hansen and Rob Albright up here in the booth. This race is getting good up front.
I'll tell you, Scott Lagasse's car looks real well. The big factor that Jay and the boys did with the All-Star team is they changed that engine, and that looks like what's saving him down the straightaways. Scott Lagasse, Darrell Waltrip's car looks real well, too. I think Darrell might be just the type of driver who's just sitting back there just waiting to see what happens here.
So right up front there, Jay Sauter, he gets closed up on there by Lagasse in the turns. We got somebody off the track and backwards. There's the number 91 car, and here is the 71 of A.J. Cooper circulating the racetrack. And it's really started to spread out. People are kind of all over the place out there right now. There's the 91 car, and Tom Harrington, another veteran driver. Now look at him. He's back on the road in that BFI number 91 entry.
Scott Lagasse is having a great day. I think Ralph Shaheen is down there, perhaps with the crew chief. Jamie Neville has taken over. He's worked some 20, 21-hour days, but they're having a great day, aren't they, Ralph?
Well, we're talking about Scott Lagasse's car, and Scott's not having as much success as we might think. Apparently, what we're being told is that the car is not handling as well as we would think it is, and that at this point he is really feeling the heat from Darrell Waltrip behind him. And we might see a change in that position shortly.
I would have to say, if that's an ill-handling race car, then Scott Lagasse is doing a mighty good job of driving it, fellas.
I was thinking the same thing. I don't think I'd make too many changes on there, other than maybe some tires, and see if we can make a slight adjustment there, but the car really looks good.
Let's go down once again. Now Chad Myers is in the pits of the Hemmingson entry.
Well, this is the second time they've been in the pits now in 2 laps. The first time they wanted to take on 4 tires. They thought they had a flat, and then they said, no, we got to come back in. I don't think you got all the lug nuts on tight. Well, that is not the problem. The problem is now the hub. There's obviously a problem there. They cannot get the hub on tight enough. Looks like that wheel bearing is smoking and gone for the day.
Just like with a smoking car, when your hub is smoking, there's a few things that could be wrong, and none of them are good either, Scott.
No, it's not. Robin mentioned that possibly Gary St. Aman's car lost the muffler, and when you lose something like that, that's a direct horsepower loss to the car. And Gary looks like he's keeping up pretty well. I wonder if we could find out if that's whose muffler that was.
Kind of thought that might be the situation as he went by. We are listening through some plate glass here, but it was either him or Glenn Allen. I think it was the Gary St. Amant car.
Jay Sauter leading. There's the heat being put on, and in fact, a pass has been made for second place, as we heard from the crew chief. And Scott Lagasse's crew chief is once again with Ralph Shaheen. Ralph?
Well, we're talking with Rick Hendrick, who is a big-time stock car owner, likes to come play with the ASA. How is Scott's car? Is he all right?
It's a little loose right now. We want him to take it easy because those 3 guys there are kind of pulling away, and it's too early in the race, so we're going to tighten him up on the next stop.
Okay, I owe you one because the guys upstairs thought I was crazy when I said the car wasn't handling real well. You backed me up. I owe Rick Hendrick one.
Well, I think we pretty much had our opinion, and he's got the facts. I think that's the way that one shakes out, guys, because Lagasse is doing a pretty good job of driving a car that's, quote, a little loose, according to crew chief Mr. Hendrick down there. We're going to continue to look at our leader as Jay Sauter now is trying to hold off the number 17 car of Darrell Waltrip. And if Lagasse was feeling some heat, Sauter certainly is now.
Wow, he certainly is. And we've got Chevrolets running in the top 4 positions. And Darrell wants that top spot. But remember, it was in this race a year ago, Scott, that he looked like the guy you were all going to be chasing to the checkered flag, and suddenly he went up in a puff of smoke.
Sure did. You know, He's got a Buick engine they brought different cars here. They brought Mark in a Ford, they brought Jay with a Chevrolet, and they've got Daryl with a Buick. The Buick motor generally is a little more powerful engine here. I think, though, the car has just got to be working a little bit better because when they go down the front straightaway, they seem pretty equal there. But I'll tell you a car I've been watching here who's so smooth that we're not paying any attention to Steve Holhausen.
And suddenly, I think he was a little bit, well, I thought he was off the pace, but he was definitely out of line coming off turn 10.
But I'll tell you, Steve's car really looks good here, so he might be just laying back here and be a factor at the end.
There's Tom Jones carrying one of our onboard cameras, and he's got some smoke coming up inside to join him in the cockpit. And once again, that is not good news, never is. The Felpro Pacejacks Pontiac trying to head for the pit road there with the veteran Tom Jones behind the wheel.
You never want to smoke in your race car unless it's a yellow flag and it's Dick Trickle, and I guess he'll get away with it as long as he races.
I'm surprised he went right past pit lane. He didn't bring it in. You know, maybe it's just a little leak or something, or he's waiting to see if there's caution coming. As we speak, car right next to him there, Bill Baird, I believe it is going up in quite a puff of smoke. So side by side, they're killing a lot of mosquitoes on this front straightaway.
It looked like Tom Jones was chattering pretty good on his radio, talking to the crew, trying to figure out, and maybe it's in fact not Jones's car that's smoking. Maybe he's just taking smoke through the ventilation into the cockpit from the car in front of him. I don't know.
No, definitely there's a problem with Jones as well. Maybe it's just contagious when they get that close together. It's catching.
That's right. Baird was behind him earlier. It's hard to suck in smoke from a car behind you, but as Baird went by, the smoke certainly thickened. Oh, and there goes somebody off the road.
Bill Baird going off. Yeah, there he is.
Yep, and back on. I think he made up some positions there. Now, is that a tactic that these guys will get away with? I don't think so.
I don't think so. No, you usually lose a little bit on that, but there's definitely smoke coming from Bill and Tom's car. I would think they both have to come in here pretty quick and check it out.
A.J. Cooper sliding past again. Let's give you a quick rundown. It is Jay Sauter, Darrell Waltrip, Scott Lagasse, the 06 car of Leighton Reese, and Steve Holtzhausen running in 5th position. Brad Loney is 6th. Mike Miller 7th, 8th is Tony Raines, 9th is Brett Bell, and 10th is Ken Schrader. That's the top 10.
There's your leader, Jay Sauter, and we saw Bill Baird doing a little bit of creative driving there to make up a position or two. We're having fun here at Heartland Park. Join us when we come back. Computer hardware for our electronic scoring system is provided by Gateway 2000. For more information about Gateway 2000 products, you should call 1-800-846-2060. Gateway 2000. Working with us here at Heartland Park, Topeka, Jay Sauter and Darrell Waltrip running 1-2 right now on the racetrack, and again fighting their way through some traffic and a lot of turns on this 1.8-mile course.
And it does appear that Waltrip is able to make up a lot of ground at the end of the straightaway. A function of horsepower, Scott, or a function of gearing?
Well, I think the gearing has maybe something to do with it, too. Jay had quite a lead coming off of turn 10 here before, and it just shows Darrell's just been able to drive right back up to him. So, like I said, I think Darrell's just sitting back there riding right now. You know, they're team cars. They have no real reason to go out there. Darrell doesn't need any points for leading laps or anything. He's just running the car comfortably, and you know, if Jay makes a mistake or slips a little bit, I think he'll go on by. But right now, Darrell's car looks a little quicker.
Jay Sauter, Darrell Waltrip, Scott Lagasse running the top 3 right now. We had some developments earlier in the number 0 car, the Felpro entry of Tom Jones. And for more on that, Ralph Shaheen's got the facts.
Well, we got the grease and the oil on the ground in his pit stall to prove what the problem is. You can see they've already got the grease sweep down here. He was bubbling up the fluid, and the transmission is all blowing back out of the system. So they brought it all in here to get it all weared up. Now they've taken the hood off the car and blown some water in there to try to cool him down. So that should take care of Tom Jones. Now as far as Mike Miller, he's the one who lost the tailpipe out on the racetrack. Now they're afraid that when the pipe came off, it might have knocked an oil line off the car. So Mike Miller's drifting back out of the top 10.
And there's the number 48 car of Joe Knott, who did a 360 just coming out of the final turn on the home stretch. He got it going again with no incident. Number 48, Joe Knott, back on the racetrack after a brief roundy-round spin. Let's go once again down to Chad Myers on pit road, working hard.
Brian, this is a shifter out of the number 10 Tony Roper car. They're going to bring him back in. All there is just a little stump in there inside, and he's trying to shift with that. They are going to go ahead and hook up a pair of vice grips to that little stump and hope he can use that as a shifter.
Okay.
Ouch, huh, Scott?
You bet.
I got one of those in my toolbox at home. I didn't know I had all these high-tech racing tool.
Let's add that to the list of things that are not good. When your shifter's in the pit and you're not, that's not good.
Okay, here's the running order after 28 laps. Steve Holzhausen, very impressive, running right with the lead quartet. He's 5th, Brad Loney 6th. Ken Schrader just working his way through the field. He's in 9th position. Mike Miller, as we mentioned, dropping back. He's 10th. There's Dave Sentaba, the rookie, running in 15th position. Glenn Allen Jr. was 16th. Behind him were Butch Miller, Bob Seneker, the 75 machine of Jeff Neal. Joe Knott was running 19th, but he's not giving that spot away after that spin to car number 90, Kent Stauffer.
That was a look down from our helicopter high over the Heartland Park racetrack facility. There's the 48 car of Joe Knott. He's back in action. This is why he didn't really have much of a problem. He was running more or less by himself when he took a little spin there coming out of the final turn. This is a look down the long home stretch, which doubles as the drag strip here at Heartland Park.
I'll tell you, watching him come down the front straightaway, the orange car that's in front of the leader, that's Dennis Lampman, he has been able to stay on the lead lap. I talked to Jimmy a little bit, and he said Dennis was just going to go out there and ride around and let the attrition come to everybody else. The leaders caught him. All of a sudden, we have a pass for the lead. Darrell Walter goes by Jay Sauter. But Dennis, he's been able to maintain in front of the leaders. So I wonder if he just Jimmy told him to pick it up a little bit here, and his car looks like it's going to roll up.
DW's got the lead now here on Darrell Waltrip Day in Kansas. And now the number 17 car putting pressure on from the back is the one that's going to be the recipient of that pressure. Now we'll see if Jay Sauter can hang on with him. We're going to go once again down to Ralph Shaheen with an update on Scott Lagacy's situation. Ralph?
Well, Brian, his problems continue. Now his shifter isn't working. He says he's really having to jam it back in gear like the teeth aren't lining up. And crew chief Jamie Neville says, you know, that might work with 5 laps to go, but we're not even at the halfway point yet, so we'll keep our eyes on him. Scott does have an all-star lineup of crew people with him. He's even got one of our own TNN guys, Nate Parker, with him, the world-class fisherman. Now, this is your first visit to an ASA race. What do you think?
I've been a spectator at one, but this is the first time as a car owner, and it's really exciting.
And were you going to see you out here driving? I know you've been tempted to do this.
Well, you may. I don't know. Right now on this road course, Scott's doing a heck of a job. We're just real proud of him right now.
Well, it's great having you here. Enjoy the race.
Hey, it's good to be here. It's great. We're just going to win this thing, and everything will be much better.
You know, fishing is a lot like racing. There are just some guys that are a little bit better. They can beat you in their stuff, or they can get in your stuff and beat you in their stuff. And it's kind of like that way in fishing. I love to go out there and drown a few worms or shiners or whatever bass fishing. But I think Parker can take my stuff and beat me any day of the week. That's why he's got enough money to own one of these cars.
Tough getting paid to go out and rip lips for a living, isn't it? Scott Lagacy running third right now. Of course, he has been running among the leaders. His problem's not quite as dramatic as those of the car we saw a while ago with the shifter completely broken off. They're just saying that his transmission's getting tough to shift.
I think the guy that we really want to keep an eye on is Leighton Reese. Remember four times a bridesmaid. Remember back at about the 4th or 5th lap of this race, he waved his hand, signaled a couple of guys by, and they just run right on their tail. I think he's saving it.
This car looked like it might have been a touch loose, you know, so he might be just saving the tires, as you said. He's just riding there, letting them make the pace of the race, you know, and he wants to definitely keep them in sight. You know, there's going to be a couple cautions here yet. We've got to be coming up to that competition yellow here pretty soon, and that's still not going to be a big enough window, I don't believe, that they can make it on fuel. So there's going to be a couple cautions here yet this afternoon.
We did get one letter that I know of. One letter from a fan that said, boy, I hate this competition yellow. What a joke. And yet, Scott, there are a lot of other sanctioning bodies where they do it. They just don't tell you they're going to do it, and they call it debris on the racetrack. And somebody will walk out and pick up something invisible on the race course, and that tightens things up. ASA said this competition yellow has one purpose and one purpose only. They want things to be settled on the racetrack. Sure, you want the crews to come into play, but they don't want to be settled because of pit stops under green.
Same as the ASA will not finish a race under caution. You know, that's just a great thing for the spectators. You know, and they're the ones that everybody's out here for, as the fans. And it's good. It's just good for racing to be able to come down and to be able to race each other for the win, not to finish under caution.
As Jay Sauter leads the race, Scott Lagacy's in the pit, and Ralph's there.
Well, they'll change right side tires and fuel. Now, they say the problem with the transmission is really only in 2nd and 3rd gear. If they get a long enough yellow, they'll try to do something with it then as crew chief Jamie Neville comes around. Oh, now they decided to take off 4 tires. Jamie Neville will work the left front tire now. At this point, they can't do anything about that transmission. Scott seems to think, from what he's telling the crew, that he can soft pedal it enough to make it last this long race here at Topeka.
Well, the good news is with this long lap at 1.8 miles, it takes the cars about 1 minute and 10 seconds to go all the way around. So losing a lap would take a very long pit stop indeed. Scott Lagasse heads back out on the racetrack. He will not go a lap down. He just has lost a very large number of positions in the field as we see some more cars coming up. And there's another off-road excursion doing some modification on the racetrack there. That's Rick Corelli out of Denver, Colorado, in the Total Petroleum Chevron entry. We saw him in Denver and one other time during the ASA season. Now he's back on the track and keeps on going. Here's a look at Rick Corelli. And we're going to take a brief pit stop here from the Mello Yello 300. We are about 35 laps into a race scheduled for 104. We'll see you in a minute. We're still here. They're still racing. There's the number 52 car of Butch Miller, the pole sitter and early leader who stopped early and gassed up. So he's done what a lot of other guys have not. And for more on Butch, let's go back down to Ralph. Ralph?
Brian, we talked earlier about why Butch pitted so early. Most of the crew chiefs say the Fords have to make 2 pit stops. They cannot do it on one. Most of the GM drivers are all planning to go in just one stop, including such names as Darrell Waltrip and, of course, Jay Sauter. They are planning on making that stop somewhere around the halfway point in this race. Don't forget, the Ford runs the bigger carburetor, the 750, as opposed to the 600 on the GM product. And Scott, you might be able to comment on this a little bit more. Is it really that big of a difference between those 2 carburetors?
Well, it is a little bit when it comes to horsepower on a long straightaway. When you're on a short track, no, I don't believe there's a big difference there. But when you get a straightaway of this length, or like we were up at Brainerd, it definitely comes into play. And I don't know the actual horsepower gain that it gets into an engine, but there is a noticeable difference on a long straightaway.
And here we're looking at the 2 guys that were in each other's face a little bit, as you mentioned, Rob. And now Butch Miller makes a pass on Mike Eddy. And I guess Mike's probably muttering under his breath in there again.
Maybe a little more than muttering. Well, I think that is a battle, if I'm not mistaken, for 11th position. We're looking at Steve Holtzhausen now with Lagasse having made a pit stop. He's 4th, and you could also see moving up quickly behind him is Brad Loney. Now, Brad ran really well at Brainerd, but I think Scott maybe drove a little too hard too early, and he's shown a lot of restraint here today, and it's paying off as he now begins to close up on the top running 4 or 5 cars.
I think what you're going to see with a lot of the ASA drivers, it's just they need to get a rhythm down. You know, you got the road racers and the Winston Cup guys who do this a lot more than what we've been doing it, and the ASA guys just need to get a good rhythm going. I see a lot of cars where they're getting pretty loose off of turn 10 here. The tires have got to be becoming a factor here on the cars with them getting so loose.
And there is 2nd place. That is Jay Sauter. 3rd place is the 06 car of Leighton Reese. 4th is Steve Holtzhausen. Right behind his Pontiac is that bright red Winnebago machine of Brad Loney. Behind him is Tony Raines, who's having a great run this afternoon, and then it is Kenny Schrader. He's coming.
I'll tell you, Kenny is quite a driver. He's been about 10 different places in the last 4 or 5 days. And he races every day. We had a great time at Talladega a couple weeks ago. Down there, I was his spotter in the Busch race. And I just about walked right off the end of the roof of the building down there, calling the race for him. But we had just a great time. Timmy Cahuth and the boys prepared a great car for Kenny over there.
Steve Holtzhausen, we looked up front and watched Leighton Reese for a while, and there we do it again, looking out through the APCO Racing product-sponsored in-car camera. Then we took a peek out the back at Brad Loney's car, and one thing that occurs to me as we're watching Steve Holtzhausen, the view that we had out of his windshield was nice and steady, but meanwhile Leighton Reese is bouncing off the Armco or off the berms and everything else out there, and he's supposed to be the road race guy.
Well, he's using up all the road he can use up. Meanwhile, Darrell Waltrip has pulled out to about a 3-second lead over Jay Sauter. Now, that will be erased if we run 3 more laps under green. Ralph did say, Scott, that the crew chiefs were saying 1 stop for the GM cars, but, you know, if they have a competition yellow now before the halfway point, I think that's going to have to be reevaluated by those teams.
It sure will. You know, they get the competition yellow, they'll be able to come in, fuel up, tire up, and then they'll have to think they will not throw another competition yellow because it'll be in the time frame of the end of the race. But yet, I don't think they can make the field yet. So some guys, you may not see some stop yet. They may wait till the next one to come into play.
What is it, about 100 miles? I mean, is that the practical limit on fuel?
Real close, yeah, just barely over.
I want to ask you about the tire situation, because we would think that with the heat out here, and as much as these guys are sliding them around, the tires would be a problem, and yet I talked to a few fellows yesterday that said tires really aren't a problem. A set of tires will go here, and they won't burn them up wholesale on this racetrack.
I don't think you wear the tires out. I think what we're seeing here is the attrition. A lot of the fluids and stuff, the transmissions, rear end is leaking. You had a couple motors blow up already. I think you're going to have, that's what's oiling the track down.
Attrition, well, Dennis Lampman has been almost Mr. Attrition this year, and looks like he's got some problems again. There's the number 9 car coming in, definitely down on power, the Lampman Motorsports Ford, and the big guy behind the wheel. What a tough season he has had. He was just driving around trying to conserve the car, and even that didn't work for him.
I simply do not understand it. Dennis Lampman was in the top 3 in terms of percentage of laps completed last year. This year he's dropped out of all but, I think, 4 races and does not have a single top 10 finish to his credit. Last year won the race at Berlin Raceway, the second race, the one in August, and finished in the top 10 in points. What a difference the season can make, and yet Dennis still somehow manages to keep that big old smile painted on that big old chubby cheek face of his.
They don't come much nicer guys than Dennis and that whole team, you know, Jimmy. They've always got a positive attitude, you know. I mean, Dennis is out of the race here, but I'm sure when they catch up with him, you know, he'll have something good to say about the whole day.
Well, the situation from Steve Holtzhausen's point of view has changed because now we're looking out through the front of his car.
Brad Loney, I think, may have spun. No, he didn't. He gathered it in, coming to turn number 9 as he was working on the race, and he has just nailed Omar Weber, and Loney is really feeling his oats. We talked about how much restraint he has shown, and suddenly he's very aggressive because he's now in a hunt for 2nd, 3rd, and 4th position.
I'll tell you, that 2nd through 5th is real tight racing. Darrell's been able to walk off.
There's the number 52K car. Ken Schrader has come into the pits, and it's not under a yellow, and Chad Myers is with us. Chad, what's up?
Well, the deal is they're going to go competition yellow next lap, so why not come in this lap? Because when everybody else goes competition yellow, they'll be in the lead because everybody else will be behind them when they come in 1 lap from now.
As soon as I saw him, I knew that's what he had done. I thought he's outfoxed him.
He has, too. You know, he has now went from 6th or 7th to first place on the racetrack here in the next lap. Very, very good thinking on their part.
So probably the next race we have, if there's going to be a competition yellow, everybody will remember it, and everybody will come on pit road about 2 laps before the competition yellow.
There's no doubt it'll come into play.
There we look at down the long straightaway at the rest of the field. There's the hood off of the number 56 car of Brett Bell, and the rest of the field. There's Joe Knott, the 48. We saw him just a moment ago. And there's the number 17 car of Darrell Waltrip. He's our leader by a big margin that we have already said will diminish somewhat when they throw a caution here in another lap or 2.
I'll tell you, Butch Miller is coming back a long way. He made that stop early. He's on about 5th or 6th position right now. His car just looks to be real strong here.
And I wonder if he'll stop. He may stay on the racetrack. He could be the leader. I might think he would stay out and then perhaps stop again later on.
Well, also, another thing about Butch, excuse me, Scott, we never talk about Butch Miller until we start getting towards the end of the race. And we've written him off in a couple of races, like Brainerd. And then guess what? He comes back, starts creeping through the field, and doggone if he didn't win the thing.
Now look at the lead that Darrell Waltrip has built over Jay Sauter, but it's going to be a race. Both of them, we've been told, have committed to come in under the competition yellow, and I thought we might see at that time by the start-finish line. Apparently it'll be the next time around. We'll see that competition yellow race.
The number 1 car of Sauter. Scott, of course, you know a lot about this race car, and it does seem to be handling very well. As you said, they appear to have it well prepared. Oh, he chirped it right front there just a little bit. Holtzhausen did, rather, trying to chase Sauter. And the yellow flag is out. We're under competition yellow now, meaning that we have raced so many laps green that the American Speed Association has enforced its competition yellow rule. They will bunch up the field. They will give all these cars an opportunity to go into the pits, change whatever they have to, fix whatever they can, and then come back out. There's Tom Jones. He may need some work, and be looking forward to seeing this one come in there in the Felpro Performance Gaskets automobile.
The move of the day, definitely Timmy Cahuth and Kenny Schrader's team. Coming in there, pitting early, getting the car all ready to go. Definitely, I believe he'll be the leader when it's all over with.
We're going to take a break right now while these drivers and their pit crews go to work under competition yellow here at the Mello Yello 300. We'll be right back. And there is the number 33 entry of Brad Loney, the Winnebago H&W Flex Steel Chevrolet, and just as everybody else was coming into the pits, well, Brad Loney made it within about 100 yards of the entrance to pit road, and his car burst into flames. Brad seems to be okay. He came bailing out of the car in a big hurry. Not that he hasn't had a tough week. He was trying to barefoot water ski last week. He fell and ruptured an eardrum, and he was just starting to get things gathered back up and heading for the front. Now this has happened to him.
He was having a great day. Brad had moved up to 4th position just prior to the caution flag coming out, and a very unusual set of circumstances. At first, we thought he might have hit somebody coming onto pit road. Then when we saw the flames coming from beneath the hood, we knew it was something far more serious than that.
Didn't he have that problem at Cedar Rapids that the car, he came into the pits and it was on fire?
That was a broken oil line that sprayed hot oil all over the car, and Chad Myers is down there with Brad Loney's crew chief. And was there any word from out of the car before it came to a halt?
We're going to find out. This is Greg Manhart. Greg, did he tell you anything before he bailed out of the car?
Brad just called in and said the car was smoking, and then somebody said it was on fire. And other than that, they made him get out of the car, so we have no idea what's wrong with it. H&W Winnebago Flex Steel Chevrolet was running good till then. We're going to get it down here and see if we can't figure out what's wrong and get it back out there.
Well, obviously, he had no sense of a problem with the engine itself, so maybe a line. Could have also, I think, Scott, conceivably been in the carburetor.
When he slowed up there, it could be numerous things. You know, maybe the brakes cooled down or had a little bit of a leak, and when he had to slow up a little bit more coming into the pits, maybe the brakes, something happened there too to create something.
Well, there's Brad Loney as he looks over the rest of the track crew, and here's the way Brad was dealing with the situation just a few minutes ago. He grabbed the fire extinguisher away from someone else who was perhaps not as eager to put that fire out as he was.
Well, these are volunteers that work these stations here, and you can see that gal. She was frantic trying to get those fireproof gloves on, and Brad did what he needed to do, and that was grab that fire extinguisher. He has a fireproof suit on, still had his helmet and gloves on. That was a good move.
Sure was. Saved a lot of dollars worth of damage.
Well, you still have to also understand there probably wouldn't be anybody more motivated to put the fire out than the guy driving it. And there, everybody's circulating around. Most everybody has come in and made their pit stops. There are still a few cars up on the jacks, and while the fire was going on, here's what was happening to Darrell Waltrip's car. Jay Sauter coming down off the jacks right behind him, and here's the race out of the pits. Jay Sauter looks like he's got the edge and the position, and he takes it.
Now, Scott, I've been told that Darrell had some of his Winston Cup boys here to work on this car. Does this mean that the ASA pit crew is a little bit better, at least to this particular stop?
Well, I'll tell you, Danny and those guys have always done a real good job. You know, that's one thing we always had going for us was great pit stops, and it looks like it paid off here again.
I don't think anybody in either organization is going to say we're better than the other guys. I mean, these ASA drivers are not giving up a thing. Certainly not here in the Mello Yello 300 so far. We're not quite halfway done. We'll be right back in just a couple of minutes. Hang out like these folks. Motorhome facilities for Group 5 Sports and the AC-Delco Challenge Series are provided by Winnebago Industries. For more information about Winnebago, call Brad Loney or 1-800-643-4892. And speaking of Brad, he's down on pit road with Ralph Shaheen. It's never an honor, well, at least never always an honor to be a guest on the Ralph Shaheen Show. Ralph?
Well, Brad, any idea why the fire?
I have no idea at the moment. Something happened on the right bank of the car, whether we got a bunch of grass in there and it caught fire and then burnt up spark plug wires or what, but it isn't looking good today for the Winnebago H&W Motor Flex Steel car. I can't say enough for the guys. They prepared a fantastic car. It worked well when the tires were fresh. It worked well when the tires were going away, and we were able to pick up some spots there. It's another big disappointment for all of us.
Well, we also want to tell your folks back home he's okay. He even jumped off the little ATV to come over and talk to us, so he's doing fine. Now let's go up pit lane to Chad Myers.
Someone that I know really wants a Winnebago is my father, Al Myers. Turned 65 years old this weekend. Happy birthday, Dad. Your Winnebago is in Brad Loney's pit. I'll try to bring it back to you in Pennsylvania.
And we understand Jake Gerst, the Public Relations Director here at Heartland Park, celebrating a birthday today. And somebody else had one earlier this week, as far as I know. But Brian, based on your travel experience yesterday, that's probably one you just as soon forget, right?
Oh, man, 6 hours in Cincinnati while they put a new windshield in the airplane I was trying to get into. I want to wish a happy birthday while we're at it to my daughter, Robin, who's 24 years old yesterday. Sorry I wasn't home to enjoy it with her. We'll celebrate this week.
3 weeks, my kiddo's going to be 21. Makes me feel real old.
So what does that make me?
Real older.
There's Brad Loney's car. They're dragging it around to a little bit closer to Brad's crew. And ironically enough, if we could pull back, you would see that it's only about 100 yards from where the car came to a halt. And Brad Loney sprayed it down. If it had been able to make it under its own power, it would have come around on pit road. Ralph Shaheen's got some more words for us down there about the pit stop situation. Ralph, what do you got?
Well, we had an opportunity to talk to a couple of the top crew chiefs about the fuel now that everybody's taking advantage of the competition yellow to gas up and change 4 tires, which everybody did. Danny Stillman with Jay Sauter's crew feels very confident that he can go all the way, as does Dave McCarty, who is crew chiefing for Darrell Waltrip here this weekend. So the top 2 cars feel real comfortable they can make it all the way.
Tell you, Ralph, the thing I can see from here, the cars that are in 3rd, 4th, 5th position were running in 3rd, 4th, and 5th position before the caution. I think if they get another competition yellow or whatever, I think everybody's going to have to stop. I think the tires are going to make that big a difference.
The 03 car of Scott Lagasse leading the 52K of Kenny Schrader and the 56 car of Brett Bell. Those are the top 3. We'll run the rest of them down for you. We also want to remind you, you can tune into the Nashville Network on Sunday, August 28th. That's the next time we'll see you here on TNN at 3 o'clock Eastern Time, 2 at the Central Time Zone. And we'll bring you live coverage of the Badgerland 300 from the Milwaukee Mile in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. We're all looking forward to the great big left-hand racetrack up there. Now let's go once again down to Ralph Shaheen on pit road. He's got some words specifically on tires this time.
Okay, Hampton, you're the tire doctor, much better than I am. This is the right rear that came off of Waltrip's. Now you can see there is a lot of soft rubber on this tire. Man, that just peels right away. But it looks like the depth gauge here is pretty deep, so he's got a lot of room left there. I don't know, Scott, what do you think?
Well, I think, like I say, the tires are not going to be a factor. It looks like they're graining a little bit, but I think what you're seeing is just a lot of, with the heat and with the temperatures out there, the oil that was dropped, that's what's making the track a little bit slippery. Steve Holhausen is having some trouble here going on the green.
Well, he was all kinds of sideways. You can see him at the top of your screen off of turn number 10 with a whole bunch of cars behind him. And car number 71, that's A.J. Cooper, has actually spun coming off that 10th turn. Is that, Scott, do you think, a function of a slick racetrack or cold tires?
I'm just wondering if there's something on the racetrack. I've seen a lot of cars earlier today do a lot of slipping and sliding here in this corner. And,
pretty hard compound, though, is it not?
Actually, this is the softest tire that they're running out here. The 1003 that they have out here, 2243 tire that they're running is the softest tire that we run on in the series. So there could have been just a little fluid or something leaked on the track and the cars going around under slower conditions.
Let's go down on pit road. Chad Myers is with Mr. Showalter. Maybe he's got some more insight in the situation here.
Jerry, you've made 2 pit stops now for your team. You should be able to calculate how much gas mileage and how the car is doing. Can you go all the way from here?
We can. If we need to go, we're going to try it.
There you go, guys.
There's a battle for 7th position. Butch Miller is already dispatched with Mike Eddy. Now he's going to work on the number 17 machine of Darrell Waltrip, who's pressuring Jay Sauter. While we're watching this war, let me give you, again, a quick rundown. This is the way the top 20 cars are running. They're all on the lead lap. 03 Scott Lagasse stayed out under this competition yellow. Kenny Schrader made that slick move that we talked about, and now he's challenging Lagasse for the point in car number 52. So it's Chevrolet's running 1-2. Brett Bell's Ford Thunderbird occupies 3rd. Steve Holzhausen was 4th, but he slipped back a couple of spots. Then it's Jay Sauter, the number 17 of Darrell Waltrip, Butch Miller 7th, car number 88, Mike Eddy 8th, Bob Seneker 9th, Jeff Neal having a good run. He's in 10th position in the Hoffman car. The 06 of Leighton Reese, not an especially good stop. He's 11th. 12th is Glenn Allen Jr. Car number 71, A.J. Cooper, was being shown in the 13th position with 25. That is Tony Raines running 14th and Rick Corelli 15th. The rest of the top 20, Dr. Yale Conley 16th, followed by Dave Sensiba, the 90th Kent Stopper, 48 Joe Knott, and car number 7, Gary St. Amant, who made a very, very late pit stop. That's the reason he's at the back of the lead 5.
Oh, looking at a situation here, could be a pass as
Darrell Waltrip is really in
Brett Bell is caught in a little bit of a situation there as he got squeezed off on the inside by DW. Kenny Schrader out in front. Well, these guys are all over the place back here.
Team cars meant nothing there. Darrell wanted to get to the front and at any expense. Jay lost that position.
I don't know if Jay's a little bit off the pace, or maybe simply lost his momentum as a result of being forced to make evasive action around the number 56 car, Brett Bell, but he has dropped back a couple spots.
We're watching a couple of cars with the hoods off. Brett Bell's got the hood off the number 56. Mike Miller's got the hood off the 18. These guys trying to keep them moved down a little bit like we saw Butch Miller do that at Brainerd.
It looked like when I talked to Dave Taylor from Brett Bell's crew chief the other day, he said the motor wasn't quite running up the car. You take the hood off, gets a lot more air into the carburetors, and that just might be what we need to get that car running.
Question I had, though, somebody told me that you can't finish with the hood off, though. Is that correct? Anybody heard anything about that?
Well, I've knocked a lot of hoods and fenders off. I won Anderson race here a year ago without the hood and the fenders, so I don't think that that's a rule that I know of.
And how do you gauge, Scott, whether it's something that happens as a result of an on-track incident, or you could simply say that the pins came out, or you could say the hinges broke? It's pretty hard to gauge something like that. I don't think there's an advantage, especially when you got a half-mile-long straightaway where it hurts you aerodynamically. What you may pick up in cooling, you're going to lose in aerodynamics and therefore top speed.
I didn't mean to open the whole can of worms.
Well, you
guys.
did.
It's just somebody
you
heard.
did mean to.
Somebody said if you took the hood off on purpose, you really had to. You're supposed to.
Well, who told you that?
I don't remember, but it came out of the Brainerd thing because Butch Miller ran with the hood off for so long, and then he put it back on. Somebody else ran with the hood off, and they said, well, you're not supposed to be able to do that.
Well, next time, check your sources, because you made Scott and I look bad.
I'll make a note
We'll
of
have to get a rule book on that. As the cars were driving away from us, Bob Seneker appeared to have a lot of fluid coming out of the tail end of the car going down the straightaway here. It'll be interesting to see. I saw a bunch of cars kind of drop back. I don't know if there was anybody. Steve's windshield there looks pretty clear, and he was right in the thick of things there. So
see, right in front of Steve Holthausen's car number 78 was the 25 machine of Tony Raines battling for position, and Ken Schrader has taken the lead away from Scott Legacy, and it looked like that Legacy is off the pace.
Well, Legacy definitely slowing down, it looks like here, as he goes through the S's. That may just be at the normal speed that he travels through that part of the racetrack, but it sure did look like the 52K passed him pretty easy, and now he's pulling away.
I wonder if his shifter problems came back into play over there in the corner that he was having.
And it's conceivable he could have dropped a gear, and maybe that's what slowed him down there coming through turn 10.
Let's take another look at it here. We got to look, and there. Whoa!
That will slow you down just a little bit.
Yeah, look out, Gophers.
I wonder if the 52 car got into a little too close behind him there, maybe give him a little help off going into that corner there.
I thought you and Schrader were buddies.
We are, but a lot of good close racing out here, and it's something that could have happened.
Well, these guys bring their short track racing hearts with them. I think we said even when they go out on the open road, and Scott Legacy, in spite of having just lost the lead, held on to it long enough to take the Wins halfway challenge. Scott Legacy in the 03 car, the Delco Voyager battery Chevrolet, owned by Hank Parker, the fishing man from the Nashville Network. And there he is, the Wins halfway challenge. Although the leader now is the 52K of Schrader, and here comes Darrell Waltrip, trying to make a move on the 03 of Legacy as well. These guys ask no quarter, certainly give none.
That's going to make Schrader even all the more unhappy if he realizes he lost $500 on his last lap and there was contact.
Well, the guy that I think right now is sitting in the catbird seat is the one right behind Darrell Waltrip.
Slaughter looks like he has a problem pulling into the pits.
Jay is off the pace as he exits turn number 10, or enters turn number 10, coming off the 9th turn. He brings the Wisconsin Aviation Chevrolet onto pit road. Now, he's elected a pit stall at the very turn 10 end, and Ralph is there with him.
Well, he's really having a hard time seeing. They had to clean the windshield off. They put a little fuel in, and then he stalled the car, but now he goes back out. And if you guys can hang with me for just a second, I can explain for you your hood rule. The rule is that you can take a hood off anytime you feel like, and you can finish with your hood off if you so choose. The thing is, though, even though it might get a little more air in there and give you a little more horsepower, if that is truly possible, the big problem is, as we call it here in the ASA, is that you would be aerodynamically challenged as you try to make your way down the front straightaway. That, of course, would be a big problem.
So he tried to make us look bad, Scott, but you know what? All Ralph did was just confirm how smart we really are, or how lucky we were to guess.
Ralph, what you might want to check on, Ralph, the grease that they were wiping off of Jay's car came directly from the 84 car. He was following Bob Seneker when I had mentioned that there was a bunch of fluid running out the backside. Jay was the car directly behind him.
Okay, wait a Well, we're going to get our cameraman, Brad Hutton, to run over here, and I'm going to show you something as well, just exactly what you're talking about, Scott Hampton. If our cameraman is turned on now, you'll see a bunch of oil on the front of the car hit the sign. This is his pit sign. You can see all the oil that was on the front of Jay's car. Right. This is right off of Bob Seneker's car. So all that oil and stuff that was on the windshield of Jay's came from Bob's, just as our expert commentator, Scott Hampton, pointed out.
The thing that we're going to watch is another attrition factor. Bob may not realize he has a problem. He lost that fluid going down the straightaway, which all exited the car behind him. He may not even know he has a problem.
And as Ken Schrader leads Scott Lagasse and Darrell Waltrip, we'll fight about the things that we keep fighting about here, but we're not going to do it in front of you. You guys watch some commercial messages, and we'll be right back. The AC-Delco Challenge Series on TNN is brought to you in part by Wynn Oil Company, makers of quality automotive car care products. Remember, when it's Wynn, it works. By Mr. Goodwrench, the GM expert at participating dealerships. By Super America. At Super America, we never stop. And by Las Vegas, home of the Las Vegas 300, the ASA Championship race. The 52K of Ken Schrader continues to lead Scott Lagasse in the 03 machine there. Lagasse having been running up front all along, while Ken Schrader started dead last. And in a worst to first charge towards the front, he used not only his driving skill, but Scott Hansen, as you mentioned before, a great move in the pits there to come in before the yellow came out for everybody else.
Sure did. You know, it's just a good job. You know, these guys are used to a lot of pit stop races, and he just did a great job of playing that competition rule into effect. You know, he just came in early, knew that the track position was going to mean a bunch to him, and there he is leading the race.
And in the third spot, of course, Butch Miller, a guy that we never talk about until the end of the race. He's only won 3 this year. He's only the points leader. And Butch Miller there. Bob Seneker now, the 84 car. We had surmised there was something going on with Bob's car, but Chad Myers has perhaps a different opinion. Chad, what's going on?
Well, we were talking to Dan Crawford, the crew chief for Bob Seneker. You know what's wrong with the car? Seeing a little bit of black on the back. Well, we crashed real bad yesterday. Took all night to repair it. If we do have a leak, we have no idea where it is. We also see that you're not listed on the leaderboard where you think you should be. Well, we're either in 4th or 5th. We're trying to figure it out right now.
Well, that would seem to jive somewhat kind of with what we were thinking, because he came in, didn't he, Scott, earlier on, did not go down a lap, so maybe there is a little bit of a scoring situation there regarding the number 84 car. Bob Seneker in the Bluebird, the Johnsonville Sausage entry. We're showing him in 4th place, and, well, we're not sure exactly what leaderboard they're talking about and why he's not on it. What's going on there?
I think he's on the lead lap. I think when they get back to scoring, he will be back on the lead lap. He came in and pitted. I believe he got out ahead of the leaders. Bob's car is slowing down the front straightaway right now. There's definitely a problem with Bob's car.
Kind of a moot point. We were just going to say our inimitable scorers, Torch and Scorch, who are never wrong, they showed him on the lead lap, so I'm not even going to question that.
No, me either, Scott. This is your first visit to the booth, and you have to rely on the scoring out there on the racetrack. Well, we rely on a different set of guys, the know-it-all brothers, we call them here. And Torch and Scorch, I mean, these guys have never let us down, and so we don't even question them anymore.
Well, look at Darrell Waltrip. You could see him just coming into frame as the front trio begin to pull away. Scott, a function of him maybe regrouping, or do you think when he took that little off-track excursion that he might have bent something or, done some damage otherwise to that race car?
Well, Darrell, I think, knows he's got a good car. Still a lot of laps left here. There's over 50 laps left. He slid off the track here in front of us. Might have picked up a little something, bent something a little bit, but I think Darrell's just going to sit back. He knows he's got a good car, and they got to make another pit stop, I believe, and he'll just wait till I think you'll see Darrell sneak back in the frame.
I think the guy that's just sitting back right now is driving 52 as we see a full course caution come out. Not 52 that's leading the race, but 52 running in 3rd place. Butch Miller, much faster than everybody in practice yesterday, qualified in a track record for the pole position. And I believe that is Mike Miller's car number 18 that has come to a stop at the head of the main straightaway.
Bob Seneker's car, when they showed Mike's car sitting, Bob's car is just to the right of Mike's car, sitting there in like at the exit of pit lane. Bob must have been able to pull his car up in there, and
he's waiting now, I think, for
problem.
the field to file by, and then he'll be allowed to rejoin at the tail end, you think, or does he have trouble there? Maybe the car has stalled.
He has trouble. he went down the front straightaway and he pulled into the inner pit lane. As we were talking before, he has some kind of problem with the car.
Well, we'll count on Chad and Ralph down on pit road to get to the bottom of it. Ralph Shaheen, first, you're first up. What's going on?
Well, I'm working back here to get to Dave McCarty, crew chief for Darrell Waltrip, to see if we can find out what is going on with his car. They're pretty busy back here. We know that they knocked out the tow out on that car, so it looks like they're getting set to bring Darrell in. They'll change tires, put some fuel in there, and see if they can get the tow straightened out on Darrell's car.
Well, there's the situation for Darrell Waltrip. Now the questions still remain. What's Mike Miller doing parked in the middle of the home stretch? And why is Bob Seneker sitting there at the exit to pit road? And we'll chase those stories for you here. And we come back from commercial break. We hope to have some answers for you. The Mello Yello 300 has been a good one so far. There's still lots more. Racing Electronics, the official supplier of communications equipment to the American Speed Association, is giving you an opportunity to feel like you're part of the team. Rob and I will be drawing the name of one lucky race fan during each of the remaining ASA races televised on TNN, and the winner will receive a Uniden Bearcat scanner from Racing Electronics, along with a one-year Racers Frequency membership. So you can listen in on all the conversations going on out there. You might even know more than we do. This week's winner is Huffy Huffmaster from Lauderdale, Mississippi. And for you to enter, all you have to do is send your name and address on a postcard to Racing Electronics, just like Roger Slack is wearing there. Racing Electronics, Box GFS, 8701 Mallard Creek Road, Charlotte, North Carolina, 28262. And if you come to one of the events, you can get tuned in on all the action as well.
Well, and one of the ways they can come to one of the events, we mentioned a couple of races ago, Brian, that we were going to have a contest. Now, we didn't tell our executive producer, John Petrie, exactly what we were going to do.
Ooh, did we get in trouble?
Yeah, those letters apparently have poured into Group 5. We asked you as race fans. Now, here's the deal, folks. Please listen and get this straight so we can get Petrie off our back. We are going to have a contest. You can come and hang out as part of the ASA TV broadcast crew. That doesn't mean you're going to replace Scott Hansen in this middle chair for a whole race, but it does mean you may be pulling cable, you may be hanging banners, you may be shining Brian's shoes. We don't know what you're going to do, but you can come hang out and see what it's like. If you have the best letter to write in now about this contest that we're having, so write to Box GFS, that's Group 5 Sales, 8701 Mallard Creek Road, Charlotte, North Carolina, 28262. Tell us why you want to hang out with the crew. And we're not going to have a random drawing. You got to be good. Did we get that? Now, is that...
Oh, heck, we might let them come up here. Yeah, we're getting ready to go green, and we just might let them come up here and join us in the broadcast booth. That'll be part of the deal, no doubt, at least to be up here with us as we're going back to green. Darrell Waltrip is up front. He did not come in. And there is Steve Holtzhausen's number 78 car as he looks down the racetrack, and the Baker Enterprises racing machine, AFCO Racing Products, has allowed us to put a car in his camera this week, and there is a look outside in on Steve Holtzhausen's car.
Scott, a good move or mistake by Waltrip and Holtzhausen and Raines to stay out.
Well, I'm sure they did this for track position, but, you know, here again, I don't know if we're in that window of a competition yellow or not. The guys that stop and put on fresher tires, I think, you know, when this race comes down to the very end, I think that's going to come into play.
We've got to be right at that window. We said there will not be a competition after 10 laps to go. That means 40 laps. If there's still 40 laps remaining, there will not be a competition yellow. So we're right at that.
We're 41 laps to go. We're on the 63rd lap. In fact, we're probably just finishing the 64th lap, as I believe I see on the scoreboard. Here comes Dave Sensiba. And as he's down on pit road with a cut tire, he's the leading rookie in that Pat Shower Memorial Rookie of the Year competition that nets the winner $40,000 at the end of this 1994 season. So he and Brian Refner, who's still out on the racetrack, have a heck of a battle going on in this rookie competition.
Refner's a lap down. A sense of, I think Scott was running in 6th position. He stalled trying to get the thing going. Now he'll go. He will remain on the lead lap with his very lengthy lap, but he was having a great run today.
He sure is. You know, Brian, I believe, has got to be 10, 15 laps down. They had that 8-lane break earlier. That's right. I would say, Dave, you know, well, I shouldn't say, because as soon as you say he's going to be the rookie of the race, then something will happen to him. But right now, he's got a pretty good lead here in this race.
Are you that superstitious, Scott? You all want to say something good about somebody because then his luck turned to bad?
Well, you've seen it happen, you know, many, many times. And, you know, it's just, I like to wait till the race is over before we call what's going to happen there.
Well, we would like to mention Gordy Brunette. Gordy was running, there it is, was running 3rd in the rookie points battle. 2 laps to go. He will remain on the lead lap with his very lengthy lap, but he was having a great run today.
Sure is. You know, Brian, I believe, has got to be 10, 15 laps down. They had that 8-lane break earlier. That's right. I would say, Dave, you know, as soon as you say he's going to be the rookie of the race, then something will happen to him.
And Gordy, as, I don't know, inexplicably there were conflicting reports, but let's just call it a difference of opinion between Gordy and the car owner. And that's disappointing for us because we've really come to like this young man. We didn't know anything about him. He's a young racing talent. But it really has worked to your advantage, Scott.
It sure has. You know, they had a couple differences of opinions. So did Jerry Gunnerman, my car owner that I ran for All-Star Racing. Rick Scalzo is a great car owner as far as I'm concerned, and ran the motorsports of Rice Lake Ford Thunderbirds. I'm in the process right now of purchasing that team, and Rick's working with me to be able to do that. We hope to come out at Anderson Speedway in 2 weeks. We're taking the cars apart, preparing them the way I like to see the cars done, working with Howard over the last few years, Howard Leto, my crew chief, Danny Stillman. We've learned a lot about preparing a car the right way, even though I didn't have a whole lot of hands-on preparation myself. They just built really good cars, really great cars, so that's what we're up against right now is purchase those cars from Rick and come out to Anderson. We're going to run Ford Thunderbirds for the first time. It should be a little bit different. Never had the opportunity to do that, but from what I see, they run real well. So hopefully we'll get out there. We're looking for a sponsor for the team, and we'll run the last 5 or 6 races.
The top 5 cars have not pitted or did not pit on the most recent caution, and that is why Steve Holtzhausen is running in 2nd position, now about 2 seconds behind leader Darrell Waltrip, but he's got a mirror full of blue and white Chevrolet. That's Tony Raines, who's had the strongest performance in a long time for this team. I mean, the longest period of time that they stayed in a race, as he ran well again at Salem, only to be involved in an incident on the racetrack with Bob Seneker. Gary St. Amant runs in 4th, and Glenn Allen Jr. now has that CarQuest Pontiac up to 5th position, and like Tony Raines, here are 2 young, very, very talented racers that are destined for wins, perhaps destined for championships, but they've been victim many times this season of mechanical problems.
Sure have. You know, Tony's been just plagued with engine problems. They changed an engine again this weekend, and I'll tell you, the car really looks like it's working well for him right now.
Well, right now we have guys that did not pit, some guys that did. There's bound to be some difference in the way the last laps in this race will play out, and a lot of different strategy. Ralph, you got more on that?
Well, Brian, just in case you're not totally confused on what to do with your race strategy if you're playing armchair crew chief back home, we are told now from the ASA officials that if we stay green all the way till lap 92, there's another competition yellow. So now that really throws things off, and there's a lot of crew chiefs down here scratching their heads saying, did we make the right call? Did we not make the right call? Then what do we do if there is another yellow? I don't know. I'm glad I'm just reporting on it.
I'm going to sit back way in the back row on this armchair crew chiefing conversation because I think we got more than enough in the brain trust between Scott Hansen and Rob Albright to handle just about every point of view. So I'll just sit back, let you guys have at it, and I'm going to rest easy on my hood situation.
Well, I'm just going to shift gears and just forget about it, okay?
With your vice grips.
That's right. Shift gears with my vice grips. I'm going to talk about the car that's in 2nd place all of a sudden. He started back in 32nd. And Columbus, Ohio native in the Win Sports City Ford Thunderbird is Gary St. Amant. Now, he had a problem yesterday, started deep in the field. Gary not known as an especially strong road racer, but he's sure proving that he's capable, as over the last couple of laps, he's passed both Tony Raines and Steve Holtzhausen, and Glenn Allen Jr. is closing on that pair as well.
You know, Glenn Allen, it took him all race last year to come on, and he was very, very strong. I believe he finished 2nd to us, 3rd, I believe it was, but he was very strong, late charges of the race. I think you're going to see Glenn. Gary, like you say, is not noted for road racing. I believe he even takes motion sickness pills.
And he's not embarrassed by it. He doesn't mind doing it. Mom told him what to take, and it works.
It seems to work well right now, I'll tell you.
He had a patch on, one of those Dramamine patches on at Brainerd to try to combat the problem. There's Tony Raines in the number 25 car. As you said, he's having a very good run. He always has a good run behind the wheel, and now it seems as though his equipment's holding up for him here and has put him solidly in contention in this race. There's St. Amant. In front of him is Darrell Waltrip, and here's a look at the 03 car of Scott Lagasse that we've seen for a while, and also the 6 car of Rick Corelli out of Denver, Colorado. Up front is Darrell Waltrip in 2nd spot now. Gary St. Amant making a great run, and here is the best of the rest.
Rick Corelli in that Total Petroleum car number 6. We hope that Rick can run a number of races next season. He just kind of comes and goes, and the Total Petroleum people, this is part of their marketing area. That's why he races Denver and Topeka.
Here's Brian Refner, who was the very first car on pit road with a broken suspension part. Now he's off the course again. So this, I guess, is good news for Dave Sensiba, who is still racing in spite of his own more minor troubles. And Brian Refner's parked it in the grass there. Not really all that good of a seat either.
Now, I'll tell you, ASA has brought out some very, very good rookies here in the last couple of years. And this has probably been the best year in a long time, but rumor has it the team's going to get better and better. You know, next year there's just a number of guys that we're hearing that are going to come out and very, very good competitors. You know, not just rookies to the sport, but I mean, have championships at home tracks that they run at. Corelli is one of those type of persons. You know, just a great racer, and just needs a little luck to go his way, and he's capable of winning the race.
Great battle here. Third, fourth, and fifth positions. Tony Raines trying to fend off Steve Holtzhausen, and Glenn Allen Jr. is challenging, and right behind them in sixth, I believe, is Joe Knott, car number 48. Yes, we do show him still on the lead lap. Talking about this rookie battle, here's how close it is. Dave Sensiba came in 1,205 points to Refner's 1,204. Each of them had earned Rookie of the Race honors 4 times. Each has 4 top 10 finishes, and they're within $600 of each other in season-to-date race winning. Can't separate them with a sheet of paper.
Those two have really waged a terrific battle all season long. Of course, we mentioned also Gordy Brunette that have done a good job with them. He is now out of the series, and Scott Hansen taking over his equipment there. But I want to elaborate just a little bit more on this. Guys we're hearing about coming into the rookie battle next year. You're talking about guys with real credentials, not just young drivers from short tracks around the country, but guys that come here with championship credentials in open-wheel racing, and in some of the other stock car classes, and in some of the smaller race cars that come here, and of course guys like Lagacy. You see Leighton Reese, who has never really run a full season with the ASA that I know of. He would be eligible, wouldn't he, for rookie? I mean, guys with real serious credentials are finding out that the American Speed Association is really just about the best show in town.
There's Leighton Reese. He's running in 7th position. Right behind him is car number 52, Butch Miller, 8th. And they are really closing in on Tony Raines, who I'm not sure has given up maybe a position to Steve Holtzhausen and to Glenn Allen. Yes, he has. So Tony appears to be losing just a little bit of ground. And then right behind them comes Jay Sauter. Let me tell you how tough Leighton Reese found it. He's finished 4 times in 2nd position on road races. He has only 1 other top 10 finish when he came over racing. And he was told by some folks that he could come to ASA and immediately run in the top 10. What was the comment he made to you, Brian, at Cedar Rapids?
He said, well, I felt like I showed up with a knife and it was a gunfight out there. And he says, I'm going back to the wine and cheese circuit. I think he was just referring to the fact that there's a lot of, you know, that kind of atmosphere around some of the road race courses. And here's Gary St. Amand. Boy, we do have a huge spirited battle going on out there. And Ralph Shaheen's with Bud St. Amand down on pit road.
Who is his father and crew chief. Now, Bud, how's Gary's car running? You guys lost the battery yesterday. Are you concerned about that today?
No, Ralph, things are working pretty good right now. We kind of got behind there when we overshot the pit, but we made it up there pretty good, and things are looking pretty good right now.
What's he saying inside the car? Is he gearing up, and when will he make his charge?
Well, he's just going to try to get there closer to the end and see what we have left there at the end.
And Butch Miller, gentlemen, has come on pit road, exiting turn number 10, almost spins as he goes through that little wiggle there that leads you on to the long pit road. And Scott, I'll tell you, it looks serious for Butch Miller. He's very slow down pit road.
It sure does. I thought at first he had a flat tire, but I wonder if there's fluid running off from under the car.
Could he be out of fuel? Is that a possibility? Has he run long enough? I don't think we never did document. I don't believe he came in on, and he might have been wiggling the car back and forth to pick up some fuel. Chad Myers is in his pit. Chad, what's the problem there?
Well, the crew is now running down to help push the car. I looked over at Gary Showalter, the crew chief. He took his hands, put them together like he was holding a stick, and then broke the stick in half. That usually means, guys, that the day is over. It's broke. Probably not much they can do to fix it. Rolling very slowly. Now the crew is finally caught up to the car. They are pushing it here. We'll keep you up to date.
The points leader on the 1994 ASA circuit now out of the race. He had been certainly in contention early on. He started sneaking his way through the field like we have seen him do so many times before. And it looks like it will not be a Butch Miller victory here today in the Mello Yello 300. We'll keep an eye on the guys who are leading and the ones who can win this race for you for just a minute or two while you cut away. The next race on the AC-Delco Challenge Series is the Michigan 300 on Saturday, August 13th, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, live from Berlin Raceway in Grand Rapids, Michigan. It'll not be televised, but don't worry, everybody. You can hear complete green to checkered flag coverage on the American Racing Network station in your area. Just check your local listings. One of the stars of the American Racing Network is Chad Myers, who's now down in Butch Miller's pit. He's been loaned to us for the weekend from the radio guys, Chad.
He's a little overheated, Butch Miller. Butch, the car, as Gary Showalter, your crew chief, said, broke. Tell me what happened.
Well, you know, the Ford Quality Care Liberty Ford Thunderbird, what a great race car today. That thing was just handling like, you couldn't ask for a better handling car. And I wish I could blame it on something, but it was just a dumb old driver. I was coming down the main straightaway. The easiest shifts of the day are going down the front straightaway. And when I shifted from third to fourth, I put it in second gear. And it just wound the motor, bent a valve. You know, the darn thing lasted probably 30 more laps after I did that. So, you know, I couldn't ask for much more out of the motor, but gee, it sure was a disappointment.
What are your plans from here?
Well, a few minutes, I'm hopping on an airplane, headed for Slinger, Wisconsin. Going to run a 200 or 250 lapper tonight. And then Tuesday night, we run in Kaukauna.
Yeah, that's a busy schedule, guys.
Well, I guess a blessing of the most twisted nature that he's out of this race early and doesn't have to finish the last few laps because he's racing again tonight, but I know that's not the way Butch Miller wanted his day to end, especially Scott, since he was really charging towards the front again.
Butch had high hopes for this weekend. You know, like I said, he wanted the pole so bad. He went out and he got it by over a second, I believe, over the second-place car. And his car looked very strong. I mean, it looked like it was definitely the car to beat. Watching the race here now, Darrell Waltrip, I would say, is next in contention now that Butch is out of the race. Darrell's car looks real strong.
But remember, we were talking about it during commercial. We will have another caution flag one way or the other, and the latest that it could come would be 93 laps to go, at least under competition yellow. We're going to go down to pit road right now. Another car that went down there just a moment ago was the 75 entry, and Chad Myers is with the driver, Jeff Neal.
That would be Ralph,
sorry. Ralph Shaheen is with Jeff Neal. I get confused. There's two of you down there. Go ahead, Ralph.
Well, thank you, Brian. And this definitely is Jeff Neal. We know that. Jeff, what happened to your car?
Well, I'll tell you, I think we dropped a valve or broke a piston. You know, I can't say enough about the trackside motorsports guys, Dick Hoffman, car owner, Split Fire. You know, I crashed a brand new car here Friday, and they worked all night and all morning for 2 days to get this one going. And it was doing good. I was just riding, saving my brakes for the last 30 laps, you know, and attrition will take care of itself here.
Got a funny feeling, John, when we get back to those high-banked ovals, Jeff Neal and this new team of his might be going back towards the front.
Thank you, Ralph Shaheen. Now that I've got that straightened out just a little bit, we're going to take another quick cut away from the action right here. We're winding down towards the closing third of the Mello Yello 300. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody, to the Mello Yello 300. Brian Drever, Rob Albright, and Scott Hansen up here in the booth. Chad Myers and Ralph Shaheen working pit road. We're looking at the battle for second place here as Gary St. Amant in the number 7 car, the Winsport City Ford Thunderbird, is locked in mortal combat with Leighton Reese in the 06 car. And we earlier questioned what happened to the 84 of Bob Seneker. Chad Myers, well, it's never an honor to be a guest on the Chad Myers show, as we said, down on pit road, and Bob's with Chad.
Bob, what happened to the car? It's sitting here. It's not out on the track.
I think the ring of pinion broke in the Johnsonville Lane Automotive Ford, but it could be related to whatever happened yesterday, and maybe something didn't get put together just correctly because we had to work a long time last night after yesterday's wreck.
Last year at Topeka, this was really a hot house. You look fresh as a daisy after 55 laps. Is it not as bad this year out there as last year?
Well, I don't really know about the race because I didn't get to race it last year, but the weather's not as bad. And, it was pretty warm, but I could go another 50. I wish I was in there doing it.
If you remember, guys, Bob Seneker did crash very hard in turn 1 last year in practice and in qualifying.
Well, what place is Leighton Reese in, guys? Anybody want to guess? How about second? He knows how to do that on the road courses. But I think the pit stops are now going to depend the outcome of the race. Is Glenn Allen Jr., do you guys think, going to try the same kind of strategy that worked for Ken Schrader a while ago and allowed him to maintain the lead? We understand that he is coming on pit road this time out of turn number 10, lap 80.
Lap 80 with 24 laps to go. Ralph Shaheen is down in the pit with Glenn Allen Jr.'s crew.
Boy, he came blazing in here and locked it up. They'll put right side tires on him. They are scuffed tires. His father wiping off the grills. Crew Chief Chris Bradley gets set to lower the jack on the right side of the car. And there he goes, fueled up and ready to go in the CarQuest car. One other thing we want to point out real quick. Gary St. Amant has developed a miss. We're going to go down and talk to Bud.
Gary St. Amant losing second place there to Leighton Reese in the 06 car, the Hotchkiss Performance Performance automobile. The Chevrolet now running in second spot behind Darrell Waltrip's number 17. And I don't know, guys. Ken Schrader made that pre-competition yellow pit stop strategy work pretty good a while ago, and now Glenn Allen Jr. taking a page out of that same book. I don't know.
What we need to find out is just how quick Darrell's running. He may not, when the competition yellow comes out, he may not stop. He may be as fast. The car just looks really, really smooth. He may not be as fast, or he may be as fast as where Glenn will come out with the new tires.
Can he go the distance on fuel? They stopped with what, about 45 or 50 laps to go as Gary St. Amant brings the Wins Ford Thunderbird on pit road. With 50 laps to go, that is within that 100-mile window that we talked about.
I believe we went, like I said, 54 laps last year, and it was, we needed to stop that lap. We were out of fuel there, so he should be right there.
Well, Ralph promised that he would be down in the pit of Gary St. Amant. In fact, he is. Ralph?
Well, he's in. He's communicating with his dad. They're trying to figure out what it is. He couldn't be out of gas, is what Bud said. He seems to have filled that up right away. They'll change right side tires, and right now it's just a mystery to them.
The Wins Port City Ford Thunderbird still up on the jacks on the right side, so something not quite going according to plan there on the right rear end of the race car. And we're hearing it doesn't sound, that didn't sound good.
A little crackly in the exhaust there.
Gary St. Amant takes the car back out on the course now. He's certainly lost a lot of positions, but he has fresh right side tires, has enough gas. That's not going to be a problem. Mystery Gremlin inside the number 7 car. We'll see.
Darrell Waltrip off turn number 10. You talked, Scott, earlier about the fact that there's a Buick power plant, but right on the hood is that big blue bow tie, that Chevrolet emblem. In ASA, it is legal to put a Buick engine in a Chevrolet body, but you must stay within the same manufacturer. In other words, it has to be a GM product in a GM body car. Ford, and obviously since the Thunderbird is the only eligible Ford product, that's why you're always going to have a Ford motor in the Thunderbirds.
Leighton Reese is closing ground on Darrell Waltrip now that he's gotten around Gary St. Amant, and I watched him go by the last lap while you fellas were chatting, and then I watched him go by this lap. There was definitely less racetrack in between the 06 of Leighton Reese and the 17 car of Darrell Waltrip. Looking at him from overhead, that's the Reese car out right there, the 06. And up in front is the leader. There's Darrell Waltrip. Here comes Leighton Reese, and you can see there's not a lot of ground in between these two guys. There was about twice that much room in between them before.
Leighton's car really looks like it's working well. As you said earlier, Rod, maybe he was just sitting back there and biding his time a little bit. And I think this competition yellow, or any yellow that's going to come out here, when this field gets tightened up, you're going to see a heck of a race here. Leighton's car is good. Darrell's car is running real well. Jay's still in this. Kenny Schrader. There's just a lot of good racing going to be taking place here.
And here's Jay Sauter racing against Steve Holtzhausen there for position on the racetrack. He tried him inside of a right-hander, now inside of a left-hander, and it looks like he made it inside, going on to the home stretch.
That is for third position, so Jay Sauter is appropriated third, and it certainly will be interesting to see. One way or another, we will have another caution, and it will be a guessing game. I'm going to guesstimate that whatever Darrell Waltrip does, Scott, is going to determine what everybody else does. If he comes on pit road, don't you expect that probably everybody else will? And if he stays out, that's what you can expect from the other lead lap cars?
I think some of these guys are in this race, and they're just going to stay out no matter what. They're getting to the end of the race. I just don't believe you'll see anybody pit any longer. If we get into it, there's about an 8 or 10 lap shootout. I think track position at that point in time is going to come into a bigger factor than anything here. So I just think what they need to do is when they go back green, if it's strictly lead lap cars, they're going to see the race.
Well, Leighton Reese running in second spot right now. He has been second in all 4 of the road races held in ASA. And how does a guy like that break a string of seconds? Well, we asked him.
Well, I'd hate to say we'd settle for a second, but you know, when you're second, you're the first loser. We want to be first this time. It's going to be tough to do, but we're going to give it our best shot.
Well, he's chasing Darrell Waltrip right now in the number 17 automobile, the Western Auto AC-Delco Chevrolet, and closing ground, as at least by my perception. We'll try to get a watch on him and see if he's in fact making up any ground. Meanwhile, we take a look here out on the racetrack at Leighton Reese's automobile, the 06 car. This is a road racing expert, the king of the road, we called him. Finished runner-up to Butch Miller at Brainerd this year in our only other excursion on the road. And I don't know, we talked about him just saving the car and riding around out there. Early on, he was driving in the grass. He was all over the curbs. He was everywhere. And I think now they have finally made some adjustments on that race car that Leighton Reese has got the kind of automobile that he wants to be driving this late in the race.
Let's give you an update on the way they're running on the race course with just a handful of laps yet to go. It is, of course, Darrell Waltrip out front, Leighton Reese in hot pursuit. Jay Sauter has appropriated third. Steve Holtzhausen runs fourth. In fifth is Scott Lagasse. Sixth is car number 52K, Ken Schrader. There is the seventh place car, number 25 of Tony Raines. And I think he might have just given up seventh position to Glenn Allen Jr., who has made a stop and is still now working his way back through the field. In ninth spot is car number 48, Joe Knott. In 10th is Mike Eddy, who will definitely gain ground. I don't think he'll take the points lead from Butch Miller, but he'll gain ground. In 11th position is Rick Corelli. 12th is the 90 machine of Kent Stauffer. 13th is car number 71, A.J. Cooper, having what I believe has to be his best performance in an ASA race ever. 14th is Dave Sensible. Remember, he stopped under green, as did Gary St. Amant, and St. Amant now is the last car that we show on the lead lap.
There's a run down to the top 15 then. Darrell Waltrip leads this race. And there is Glenn Allen Jr., who just took over, as you said, a position in the race from Tony Raines in his new CarQuest colors. 20 laps remaining in the Mello Yello 300, 104 laps on this 1.8-mile course, 300 kilometers, 160-plus miles of racing. Darrell Waltrip, he is doing a good job out there in that automobile. He's ridden very steadily, contended early, settled back, lost some positions, and now he's right back in the front and pulling away. At least it looked like he was pulling away for a while on Leighton Reese. Then it looked like Reese was closing ground. I'm not sure what the situation is right now.
I wonder if he needs to be driving that hard, knowing that they've got a caution coming. You know, he definitely looked like he was driving away, and with the caution flag coming, you would think that he would want to just conserve the tires. The car maybe just driving that easy.
I was going to say, Scott, you have talked about rhythm, how important it is to get into a rhythm, and I think you probably would be the first to say you can be too careful, you can be too cautious, you can relax too much, and that's when you make your mistakes. So if you're in a rhythm, even if it looks like you're driving the car a little bit hard, maybe better off to stay in that rhythm.
Sure can. You know, what happens then when you get out of it, you get up and you do get a little pressure, you start being more concerned about the guy around you, and then it takes you too long to get it back, where he's kept his momentum and he can usually pass you when you get out of rhythm.
And it could be, guys, too, that Leighton Reese may have been in communication with his crew chief who said, hey, we're going to have another caution, so just maintain that second position. Don't wear out your Goodyear Racing Eagle. Save something, and once we have this caution, then you can make that last end of the race charge.
I'll guarantee you, Leighton will make a charge coming into the race.
He's about 8 seconds behind Darrell Waltrip right now.
Identical to what happened to Leighton last year. You know, we got down 8-10 laps ago. We had the caution, and he just drove the wheels off. Literally, he drove them off into the grass. Is what happened, and just cushioned my lead a little bit. But he's a hard road racer. We got to give him a lot of credit.
Ralph Shaheen's been snooping around at the Darrell Waltrip pit, and Ralph, come on in. What do you got down there from the 17 car?
Well, I'm just talking to crew chief Dave McCarty down here, and they feel very confident, very comfortable right now with their car. Darrell, apparently his lap times are just kind of going up and down on just how he feels like running at the time. He can run harder, he can also back off, and doesn't seem to be having any problems. He's just finding the pace that he wants to run at, and they do feel that they can't go all the way on fuel and tires. So if they do anything at this competition yellow, it's going to be a last-minute decision. Two other cars to update you on. Dave Sensible stuck in 5th gear, and Gary St. Amant back on pit road, and he seems to think that it's the battery now that has taken the Wins car out of the race.
One interesting thing about Darrell's car, Mark Martin's car was built especially for road courses. The car Jay is in was designed especially for road courses. That's about the only place that car was run at. Darrell's car is the car that Jay drove at Salem 2 weeks ago, and there weren't as many changes made to it. But I'll tell you what, maybe this left-hand course, guy should be just leaving his regular circuit track car alone, because Darrell really looks strong.
Darrell Waltrip leading by about 8 seconds over second place Leighton Reese in the 06 car. And that is the way things are right now. We're scheduled for another caution flag coming up here shortly. We'll see if it comes out when we come back. Welcome back to the Mello Yello 300. Darrell Waltrip in the number 17 car, the Western Auto Machine, is leading this race as we are approaching a point at which a caution flag should come out under the American Speed Association's competition yellow rule. We saw number 78, Steve Holtzhausen, go into the pit And now he is back out on the racetrack again. Not a very good view out in front of his car there. And Steve Holtzhausen lost his position. But other than that, gentlemen, we have about the first 7 cars are all Chevrolets running out there. Steve Holtzhausen's Pontiac is the first one on the racetrack. That, along with number 15 Pontiac, the entry of Glenn Allen Jr.
And we just witnessed a near disaster for the second place Chevrolet. Scott kind of pounded his chest as coming off turn number 10. Leighton Reese was quickly being caught up by Jay Sauter. Almost spun.
Sure did. He come off at turn 9, I believe it was, over here. And I was steering for him because he had that west sideways.
There's Steve Holtzhausen who's got the hood off the car. Here's another off-road excursion. And Chad Myers down on pit road. What do you have?
This may be the caution.
Chad?
Yeah, Brian, trying to get out of the way of these guys. They're trying to get the cool water back in the car. They have really overheated the car. It is now up to 270 degrees. Water boils at 212, so you know how hot it is. They're trying to pour water directly into that radiator to cool it down. The problem is, once you get to 270, sometimes you burp the water, and I can let you know that Scott Hansen knows what that means. He can explain what that is.
I'll tell you, when the water gets that hot and it surges or burps, as he was talking about, it comes out of the overflow and you just can't get in. You got an air pocket built up in there, and there's just no way you're going to get in. There's no way you're going to get the water back into the motor.
It's deja vu all over again for the 52K car here as Ken Schrader comes in just ahead of the anticipated yellow flag again, and Chad Myers hustling on down there.
We knew this one was coming because they just ran down and said, when is the yellow flag coming out? And we said 92. Okay, then we're going to come in on 91 or 90 before that yellow flag comes out. And again, we're going to do the same thing we did last time and try to punt that competition yellow.
It worked before. I'm not convinced, Scott, based on your observations a moment ago, that it will work again. You've already said you know the car owner, obviously, for the number 17 car of Darrell Waltrip. You know what he likes to do strategically, and you're absolutely certain that Darrell will not come in.
I'm sure he won't. The car looks like it's running real well. There's no way that those guys will pull him in off the racetrack.
Well, you should be steering again for Leighton Reese. He just came squalling out of the 9th turn into 10 and heading down the straightaway. And I think he's trying to drive the wheels off of it again. Let's hope he keeps all 4 of them on the pavement this time, because it could be a very exciting finish. He's making up some ground. Not a lot, but he is inching his way up. And that will do the rest of the job for him right there as Roger Slack, the teenage flag man for the American Speed Association, brings out the competition yellow, the second one of this Mello Yello 300.
Ken Schrader went real close to going a lap down there. It's a good thing that yellow did fall when it did, that they didn't hold it over one more lap.
We would encourage all of you race fans to get out pencil and paper. In just a minute, we're going to give you an address on the screen to talk about the official publication of the American Speed Association, the action line. So get a piece of paper and pencil ready, and we'll be talking about that in just a minute.
Keep a piece of paper and pencil ready. Every time you turn on the TV set for an ASA AC-Delco broadcast, we've always got lots of stuff to tell you about, and things you need to write down, and contests you can enter, and all of the above require you to write something down real quick, so just keep something handy. We're under caution right now at 92 laps into this 104-lap race, so it looks like a good, even, clean dozen to the finish line, to the green, to the checkered flag. I'll get to say here in a minute. Holy Toledo, folks. Anyway, dozen laps to go to the checkered flag here, and considering the way they've been racing here, they haven't had any cautions, very few anyway, based on incidents on the racetrack.
Well, Scott, like you said, Darrell Waltrip will not pit.
No, I knew he wouldn't. He's trying to sucker some people in there. The thing he's got going for him, there's a lot of cars between him and the guys who did pit. I think Steve Holhausen pitted early enough. Kenny Schrader waited till the last lap. Steve Holhausen came in about 4 or 5 laps prior to that. So he's got the best track position for the tires that are on the car, but I just think there's too many cars in between the leader and where they're at to make this pay off.
Glenn Allen Jr. stayed out as well. Darrell Waltrip circulating behind the pace car right there did not come in. He's content to run the last dozen laps to the checkered flag with what he has on the car. Now, we mentioned at the top of the broadcast it was DW Day here in Kansas, officially decreed so by the governor of the state of Kansas. And this was a little get-together in the governor's mansion there. There's Darrell Waltrip, the guest of honor, and there's Butch Miller, the points leader in the ASA. A lot of folks having a good time out there.
There's Ted Musgrave. We haven't had a chance to get to talk to him today because he's up at the top of the stands, or was at the top of the stands, crew chiefing, or spotting, I should say, for his NASCAR teammate, Mark Martin. There's the governor, Joan Finney. You met her a little bit earlier, and she is a real real patron of motorsports here in Kansas. She is excited about the growth at Heartland Park here in Topeka, and I think is very enthusiastic about what the future holds in store for this ASA Mello Yello 300.
And the guest of honor is certainly delivering on DW Day, so far at least.
Maybe it's because he was one of only 3 drivers to come to chapel service this morning. Maybe a little extra prayer went up. It was kind of good to see him. We were out there at 9 o'clock. We didn't have a lot of us, but we had a good group anyway. Hey, here it comes. We're going to talk about the action line. There's the address. That's the ASA headquarters, Post Office Box 325, Pendleton, Indiana, 46064. What is the action line, you may ask? It's about 12 or 14 pages. It comes out, I don't know, 20 times a year, I understand. There are all kinds of coupons and discount offers. There is a subscription price. You can write, find out, and they may even send you, I don't know if they'll send you a free issue or not. I know they give them away at a lot of the racetracks. You definitely want to subscribe. I think it's $24.95. A lot of articles in there. I've had a chance to write about Ralph Shaheen and Brian Drever, and they say they're going to have a lengthy interview with my mom and get the scoop on me and write an article about me. But you need to subscribe. It's really an interesting publication.
The action line also, if we get things confused, and we means me usually up here in the booth, that they'll straighten it all out for you. You can sit down with the luxury of a little extra time, read about what happened, and look forward to what will happen in the American Speed Association.
Darrell Waltrip is not waiting very long here. He's taken off way out. He's got a heck of a jump here. He'll have as big a lead as when the caution came out. He took off
And you
plenty
mentioned,
early.
Scott, that Steve Holtzhausen had the freshest tires. But look at the bottom now. That's Glenn Allen Jr., I think, that's challenging. There he goes. Jay Sauter had moved around the 06. Jay Sauter now has moved into second position, and I think Glenn Allen Jr. has moved into third, and he's got much fresher tires than most of the rest of these guys also.
Whoa, we got some big smoke down at the end of the straightaway. Brett Bell in the 56 car got as bad a jump on that green flag as Darrell Waltrip did a good one, and he kind of held up Tony Roper there in the number 10 car.
That's Dave Sensimus, car number 4, that is fogging for mosquitoes. It's too hot for mosquitoes, but that may linger long enough to get him when nightfall comes this evening.
The motor's running as hot as they are, and this late in the race.
Now he's running through a cloud of dust in a Hardy Hi-O Silver. Somebody up front just took an off-road excursion there, brief as it may have. Oh, and now Sensimus' car's on fire.
Right. What he did is he probably missed the shift or something down there, wound it up just a little bit too long, and broke a valve spring or something, dropped the valve, but it looks like he's definitely done for the day.
And I think it happened quite a bit earlier, because I noticed just prior to the competition, Yellow, for about 6 or 8 laps, he took a very low line coming off turn number 10 and a slow trip down the main straightaway. So it looks like the end of the day. And who knows? You know, Brian Refner's a bunch of laps behind him, but he could pick up positions.
He did not pull off the racetrack. Very, very surprising.
He sure did. And Dave Sensimus staying out on the racetrack, and there's the whole front end of Jay Sauter's car all blacked up from something coming out of one of the cars that he was behind earlier. Darrell Waltrip leads. You said it, Scott. He got a great jump, anticipated the green extremely well. There was a traffic jam behind him as they entered the home stretch to go back green.
Glenn Allen Jr. is in third position, and Scott, it looks like he's closing on Jay Sauter, and for a guy that he said all weekend had no horsepower, he's got a great run going today.
Sure looks like it. You know, he put some tires on there. As I said, Glenn was not a factor in this whole race last year until the last 10 laps or so, and it looks like he just used his head and saved his equipment. He's going to be here at the end.
And there's Dave Sensimus, car number 4. He's climbing out of the Lane Automotive Gauge Motor Mall Chevrolet. I'm sure he's going to be very disappointed because he ran in the top 10 through much of the first half of this race and was in the lead lap until late in the going.
They're running around putting out the flames that we saw earlier. Then it appeared as though they had abated all of their own. Darrell Waltrip circulating on a nice, clean racetrack. No traffic to contend with just yet. And Steve Holtzhausen in the number 78 car also among the top handful of drivers. But look at the lead that Darrell Waltrip has. He got a great jump, and he has extended that lead even further over Jay Sauter.
It looked like Glenn Allen dropped back. I didn't see him in the frame there at all. There's quite a gap there.
Like CarQuest machine. He did have a lot of distance to make up, but they have absolutely disappeared as far as Leighton Reese is concerned. So the challenge that we thought might come from Leighton late in the going, it's not going to materialize.
Glenn stayed out, so did Holtzhausen, of course, so did Darrell Waltrip, but I think Leighton Reese went in, and that could be the difference right now. The track position that he lost going into the pit and the distance on the racetrack lost by the great jump that Darrell Waltrip got anticipating the green. And now Glenn Allen Jr. trying to make up some ground on Jay Sauter, and it appears as though he's doing it again.
Well, as he had said all weekend long, he put Butch Miller in this car on Friday just to see if it was Glenn himself or if there really was a problem. And Butch said he had as good a handling race car in this car number 15 as Butch had ever sat behind the wheel of on a road course. He said, let's put my motor in your car. Of course, you can't do that, but it was a good thought. He said, nobody will even touch us.
Scott Lagasse and Leighton Reese are the 4th and 5th running cars that you see behind this trio of white automobiles. And I'm reminded of the beginning of the race again when we had a trio of white cars running up front. A few of them were the same as we have right now.
By the way, Drebber, we were going to try to pull something on you today. Unfortunately, our cameraman, apparently our fan cam guy, was overcome with heat. He was going to come up here. We're going to bring your dad right down here, and he had your birthday present for you. We understand that you did a little saxophone blowing back in junior high. And
oh, my God.
He bought you one and brought it all the way from New Mexico to give it to you today, and we were going to have you toot us on the broadcast or off the broadcast. And we understand that we have sent your name to Washington, D.C., and that other celebrity saxophonist will be calling you to arrange a duet. You know that guy that lives in that big White House on Pennsylvania Boulevard?
Yeah, well, I thought he was going to turn my trip yesterday into an even worse one, as President Clinton was in the Independence and Kansas City area. We heard the traffic patterns were severely disturbed, and that was after we took 6 hours, Sandy and I trying to get here, Sandy from the radio side, trying to get here from Cincinnati, and then we heard that Bill Clinton's motorcade might tie us up even more, but sit in on a duo with the Prez, I think I'll take that one. We'll go to a commercial break with that thought and be right back here in just a few minutes. We are in the last handful of laps here of the Mello Yello 300. Darrell Waltrip leading Jay Sauter and Glenn Allen Jr. Hang in there. We'll be right back. We're back to the Mello Yello 300 with Darrell Waltrip leading on Darrell Waltrip Day here in Kansas at the Heartland Park Topeka Race Course. And in second spot is the number 1 car of Jay Sauter.
Not all of the events this year are televised, though in a couple of seasons they all will be. ASA on the American Racing Network only. The Michigan 300, the second visit to Grand Rapids, Michigan, August 13th at 8 p.m. The Miller 300 from the State Fair in St. Paul, Minnesota. That is a Monday Labor Day race, September 5th, 3 p.m. And then, of course, Toledo. We televised from there earlier this season, but the return visit, unfortunately, will not be live. And we have had a change, Brian, in third position.
Well, there goes Scott Lagasse back into third spot ahead of Glenn Allen Jr. in the number 15 CarQuest machine. Oh, Lagasse getting a little sideways there as he gathers it back up. And here's a look at the pass that we just saw the result of.
And why am I not surprised that it's happening on the straightaway?
Well, there's Lagasse, foot in it, going past the Pontiac of Glenn Allen Jr. that we have already elaborated, said was down on power all this week.
And Glenn noses right in behind him as they go through turns 1 and 2.
I believe Ken Schrader picked up a spot, too, on Leighton Reese.
And he's now gaining on that duo that's battling for third. So it's Darrell Waltrip comfortably in front, Jay Sauter, Scott Lagasse third, fourth is Glenn Allen. Schrader is up to fifth, Leighton Reese drops to sixth, and I think that Kent Stauffer is in seventh position. Car number 90, the Ford Thunderbird of Kent Stauffer. Doggone it, we haven't talked about him all day, but this is just a typical run for him. Very steady, very consistent, completes a larger percentage of laps, I think, than just about anybody out.
We're working lap number 101 out of 104. That means we're 3 from the finish here. We'll let you know exactly how many laps we are. There is the number 90 car of Kent Stauffer from LaGrange, Ohio, on the FlexTech Kinetic Racing Engine Ford. And if Steady wins the race, well, he may not win it, but he certainly is going to put in one of his better performances ever here in that number 90 car.
Flex Technologies Kinetic Racing Engines Ford Thunderbird. And Scott, Kinetic Racing Engines really pioneered. They were one of the pioneers of the Ford V6 program in ASA.
Yeah, Chris does a lot of work over there with the Ford V6 and a lot of Ford engines. And he just does a heck of a job with that engine, as do other people with Chevrolets and Buicks or whatever. But he's got to take, and we've got to give him a lot of credit for the development he has come up with in the last few years over that. See Scott Lagasse over in on Jay Sauter here. Looks like there could be a pass for race for second here.
And go to the race for second place, and there it is. Jay Sauter and Lagasse going after it with 3 laps to go. There's Jay Sauter, the number 1 car, the Wisconsin Aviation Chevrolet. Lagasse there in the 03, the Delco Voyager, owned by Hank Parker, the fishing expert on the Nashville Network.
Isn't this interesting that Darrell Waltrip is leading in the Jerry Gunderman car, but now the car challenging for second position, Scott Lagasse, is the car that Darrell Waltrip owned that was purchased by Hank Parker and wrenched by Jamie Neville. And again, Jamie Neville had been crew chief for Bill Baird. Last year, he was the crew chief for Brad Loney. He's a former racer himself. He and his bunch have worked, I think, 21-hour days now for the last 4 or 5 days just getting this car ready to go, and their efforts have really paid off.
Well, he's showing him a little bit there as they go through the S's, and it remains to be seen how he'll handle it on the straightaway as they get ready to punch it wide open going on to the final stretch. We're coming down onto the 2 laps to go mark. These two guys just getting ready to enter the straightaway. Darrell Waltrip already well into it.
And Schrader is closing in 5th position, but I don't think he has enough time. And Lagasse loses ground to Jay Sauter this time on the straightaway. And it might have been the fact that Jay, it looked like Scott got a little better jump off turn 10, and that's crucial.
Sure did, you know, and like I say, I hate to revert back to it, but they put a different engine in that car this morning, and it's a motor that ran here last year, run real well, and you know, he just might have some power. That the car was set up all weekend with a motor with a little bit lesser power, and then they put a good motor in. The car may not be just the way they wanted it.
Jay Sauter really having a close fight there with the 03 car of Scott Lagasse. Of course, Jay Sauter in a new ride, and we asked him how the new team was working out for Jay Sauter.
Real good. These guys are a great bunch of guys. Danny Stillman is a crew chief, and you know, we had 3 cars to bring to this race, so the guys have really worked hard in the shop, but things are going well. Everybody's clicking well, and we're looking for some good things.
Obviously, that interview was done earlier because now, just as Jay Sauter was talking about how well things were working out, he has parked the #1 car after a miscue, and it looked as though Scott Lagasse just really pushed him just a teeny bit too hard, and Jay might have been, well, I don't know.
I think Jay is out of tires, and he's driving the wheels off it. Scott Lagasse has a little fresher tires.
Here's a look at it.
They get down in here, and Jay, I think, is just slowing down to protect the line, and Scott just runs right into the back of him.
And Scott Lagasse all over the brakes there. Jay Sauter trying to collect it up. Didn't hit anything, but apparently has stalled the car. Here's another look. I don't know. Lagasse up on the berm there, and Jay Sauter, was he already starting to come around? Did he get a little bit of help? You be the judge.
One thing about Lagasse is he definitely slowed to try and get him time to get it back, but tires are wore out. The track's real greasy. You know, Jay did the best he could, but there was just no way he was going to hold on to it.
Jay apparently told his crew chief over the radio, not surprisingly, that he was spun out. But boy, those are those kinds of situations. It's really, Scott, hard to place blame. You got to be sitting behind the wheel of both race cars. It's possible that Scott was over exuberant, and definitely wouldn't have been an intentional move, because look at the damage he did to his right front corner. He might have gone in hot thinking there was a good opportunity to pass him. Jay could have brake checked him, and guess what? Checkered flag. Darrell Waltrip has won the Mello Yello 300 on DW Day in Kansas.
I'll tell you, he's going to be excited.
While we're talking about the misfortune of Jay Sauter in the runner-up spot in the race for second, we had sort of forgotten about, and maybe it's understandable because Darrell Waltrip has driven a masterful race here on Darrell Waltrip Day in Kansas. Everybody racing for the checkered flag now to clean up the rest of the spots, but Darrell Waltrip is the winner. Jay Sauter is not the runner-up as he might have planned. We'll be back to wrap it up for you, talk to the winner, and more after this. Welcome back, everybody. The Mello Yello 300 is in the record book. The winner is Darrell Waltrip in the number 6.
Nice job in the truck.
Enjoyed winning the Mello Yello 300. There's a look at the rest of the top 10. We hope that you enjoyed the broadcast.